Chapter 657. The man who was carrying the unconscious Xiao Yunju was clearly quite capable. Judging from his skills, he did not look like a second-rate killer. He could at least be considered a high-level killer. A high-level killer could kill 50 normal people. This was because a high-level killer's standard was similar to an advanced special forces soldier's. Of course, the advanced special forces soldiers here did not refer to people like Chu Ning and Chu Xiangnan who had earned the title because of Yunjian, but those who were truly capable. However, Chu Ning and the rest would become advanced special forces soldiers with real capabilities sooner or later. Usually, an official member of the advanced special forces who had undergone the most brutal training could take on 50 normal people alone. It was definitely not an exaggeration. However, such an existence had been killed on the spot by Yun Jian with a stab to his temple. Leaving these profound questions aside, just the fact that Yun Jian had killed someone was enough to scare everyone present out of their wits. Seeing someone kill someone in their imagination was definitely not as intense and shocking as seeing it in real life. Something like this had happened right in front of them, and the killer was the sister of their child's classmate from the same school. This feeling was definitely not as intense as they had imagined. After Yun Jian killed the man, she carried Xiao Yunju back from the man's shoulder before he fell to the ground. Xiao Yunju had been knocked out by the man and was unconscious at the moment. After Yun Jian carried Xiao Yunju, she did not even want the butterfly knife and retreated quite a distance from where she stood. Just as Lan Su reached out to stop Adam from helping Yun Jian, Lan Su and Adam had already disappeared from where they were. No one present knew what Lan Su and Adam had gone to do, and no one wanted to find out. Yun Jian hid behind a flower bed where the sniper could not aim. She checked Xiao Yunju from left to right and found that Xiao Yunju was only knocked out and was not a hindrance. It wouldn't affect the brain either. Just as Yun Jian flashed into the flower bed with Xiao Yunju, the crowd had already exploded. Ah! 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 Kill! Kill, 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 they're killing people. Someone was so frightened that he was trembling with fear, shouting and yelling at the same time. Then, a large group of female parents screamed in fright. For a moment, the whole place was in an uproar. After all, everyone present was a parent, and most of them were female. The male parents had already gone to work. For parent-child sports events, most of them were female parents. However, when they saw such a bloody scene, the group of female parents were so scared that they were trembling. Even their necks were trembling. Yun Jian placed Xiao Yunju in the flower bed. "Miss. How is Yunju? Is he okay?" Just as Yun Jian placed Xiao Yunju in the flower bed, Duanli had already rushed over from the other side. Yun Jian frowned. She didn't see Lan Su and Adam, but she knew that they must have gone to deal with the sniper in the distance. So when Duanli ran over, Yun Jian didn't stop her. "Chestnut, look after Xiao Zhu for me." Yun Jian gently moved Xiao Yunju's head to Duanli's calf. "Okay." Duanli nodded heavily. Yun Jian walked out of the flower bed. She walked over to the dead man's temple and pulled out the butterfly knife in front of the group of parents who were shivering and looking at her. Then, she walked towards Ding Yin and Tian Pei. Ding Yin and Tian Pei saw the scene just now and were already squatting on the ground, trembling in fear. Both of them were indescribably terrified when they saw Yun Jian coming over. Swish, suddenly, Yun Jian threw out the butterfly knife. "Ah!" Ding Yin and Tian Pei screamed at the same time. Chapter 658. Ding Yin and Tian Pei had been squatting in the flower bed, not daring to come out. The butterfly knife that Yun Jian had thrown out had hit the ground right in front of Ding Yin and Tian Pei, only a short distance away from their feet. The butterfly knife was still stained with the blood of the dead man, which had yet to coagulate. Now that the butterfly knife had been thrown by Yun Jian in front of Ding Yin and Tian Pei, it had sunk 3 inches into the ground. This scene alone was enough to send chills down the spines of onlookers. Needless to say, the parties involved, Ding Yin and Tian Pei, must be terrified right now. "Ah! Ah! Mommy has blood. Woo-woo." Tian Pei's original stubborn temper had turned pale with fright at the scene in front of her. She howled loudly, trembling all over, tears streaming down her face. If Tian Pei had the arrogance of a young lady at the beginning, then now she had lost all her dignity. She had even broken through her stubbornness, and her tears had even fallen. She was clearly terrified. Ding Yin was also scared half to death. How could she still care about her daughter Tian Pei? Ding Yin was trembling all over. She and Tian Pei huddled together, not even daring to breathe loudly, afraid that Yun Jian would pull out the butterfly knife and stab it into their temples. Just like the man who had just been killed. Yun Jian only smiled contemptuously at Ding Yin and Tian Pei. Then she strode forward, grabbed Tian Pei's collar, and pulled her out of Ding Yin's arms. What are you doing? Seeing her daughter being pulled away, Ding Yin could no longer stay still. She hurriedly tried to pull her daughter Tian Pei back. Yun Jian kicked Ding Yin away mercilessly. She grabbed Tian Pei's collar and looked at Tian Pei's tear-stained face. Yun Jian recalled the way Tian Pei had cursed Xiao Yunju just now. You just said that my brother is a fatherless child, and told him to kill my brother, Yun Jian's eyes were filled with murderous intent. At this moment, her murderous aura was so oppressive that even the adults present did not dare to say anything, let alone Tian Pei. Wah! Tian Pei was frightened by Yun Jian's words. She had no choice but to use her trump card, crying. Pa! Yun Jian grabbed Tian Pei's collar with one hand and slapped Tian Pei's face with the other. Yun Jian did not care that Tian Pei was still a child. After slapping her, she raised her voice and growled, "Why are you crying? Weren't you very powerful just now? Answer me." If Tian Pei scolded her, Yun Jian would not treat her like this. But what did she say? She actually cursed Xiao Yunju to die. The word die was taboo for Yun Jian. Especially when he cursed Xiao Yunju. Xiao Yunju had died once, which made Yun Jian cherish him even more. At the same time, she could not bear to see others scolding him. Tian Pei was scolded until she could only sob. The slap on her face was burning, but she did not dare to say a word. At this moment, a sharp siren was heard from outside the school. Not long after, a few police cars stopped there one after another. More than 10 policemen got out of the cars with batons in their hands. The leader of the group was a police officer from the police station near Wuning Elementary School. He heard gunshots from nearby residents, so he immediately rushed over. What happened? What happened? The police officer's surname was Wu. Officer Wu's eyelids twitched when he saw the dead man. When Ding Yin saw the police, she quickly took Tian Pei back from Yun Jian's arms. Then, she pointed at Yun Jian and shouted at Officer Wu, "She killed someone. She even wanted to kill my daughter. She's crazy, take her away. Hurry up and shoot her." Yun Jian sneered. At this moment, Officer Wu walked to Yun Jian. He looked at Yun Jian and raised his voice. What happened? Yun Jian glanced at Officer Wu. She took out a document from her pocket and handed it to Officer Wu. Chapter 659. Officer Wu was a police officer from the police station near Wuning Elementary School. Perhaps Officer Wu was one of the higher-ranking officers in his station, but his status was nothing compared to the entire Longmen city. Officer Wu was usually high and mighty in the police station as well. After all, he was one of the more powerful officers in his station. In spite of that, he dared not even fart when he met his superiors. Yun Jian's Team Monarch, on the other hand, had only become famous recently. Officer Wu was in this line of work, so it was only natural that he had heard of Team Monarch's reputation. Team Monarch's reputation had only spread recently. In the beginning, Team Monarch had only completed a mission that even the advanced special forces found difficult. In their second mission, Team Monarch had even managed to retrieve the antique stolen by International God in the shortest time possible. These two missions had cemented Team Monarch's identity and promoted them to advanced special forces in the shortest time possible. When Team Monarch was still an advanced special forces candidate, they had completed 2 major missions in the shortest time possible within a few months and were promoted to Advanced Special Forces directly by their superiors. Advanced Special Forces was an honor that some people could not attain even after decades of hard work. It was rumored that the honor of Team Monarch's Advanced Special Forces was earned by slashing God of Team Monarch. More importantly, the internationally renowned assassin organization, Inferno Ring, which was second only to An Hun Group and Kosha mercenaries, was annihilated by slashing God of Team Monarch. Although it was unknown how slashing God of Team Monarch knew An Hun Group and Kosha mercenaries, the rumor had shocked everyone when it got out. In other words, there was no one who was not surprised. After all, slashing God of Team Monarch was only an underage girl according to the rumor. What Officer Wu did not expect was that slashing God of Team Monarch, who was rumored in his station, Longmen City, the entire Zhe province, country Z, and even internationally, would appear before him. Oh my God. Smack. Officer Wu looked up at Yun Jian and the document in his hand fell to the floor. Putting aside the fact that Yun Jian was slashing God that had already spread to the international police force and the underworld, the fact that Yun Jian was Gu Yunjian's subordinate was enough to overwhelm Officer Wu. Yun Jian smiled faintly at Officer Wu's reaction and bent down to pick up her document, patting the dust off and saying faintly, "You've dirted my document." Officer Wu's heart clenched when he heard Yun Jian's voice again. Officer Wu opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but he found that he couldn't say anything. Ding Yin couldn't hold it in anymore. She hugged Tian Pei, who had already begun to cry, and shouted at Officer Wu again, "You're the police. Team Monarch? Slashing God. Since you are the police, how can you protect her? She had killed someone. Princes are punished the same as commoners if they break the law. Even high-ranking officials can't do as they please. Why can't she be executed for killing someone?" Ding Yin had long detested Yun Jian. Moreover, Yun Jian had treated her daughter like that just now. She even had the urge to kill Yun Jian. Yun Jian turned her gaze to Ding Yin again when she heard what she said. Chapter 660. At this moment, Officer Wu wanted to strangle Ding Yin. He resisted the urge to strangle Ding Yin and nodded to Yun Jian. Can you explain what's going on?" Officer Wu was at least 3 times older than Yun Jian. However, he was addressing Yun Jian as an elder. The surrounding police officers, including the parents who were hiding in the flower bed, were all dumbfounded. When Officer Wu appeared, he looked mighty and domineering, and everyone present saw it. But how long had it been? Yun Jian had only given Officer Wu a short time to show him her ID, and Officer Wu was so polite to Yun Jian? This was illogical. At this moment, not only were the policemen who came with Officer Wu stunned, but also the parents and teachers who were hiding to watch the show but didn't dare to come out were all dumbfounded. Yun Jian pursed her lips and squinted her eyes. Her delicate face attracted everyone's attention. Yun Jian knew that if she didn't explain herself, it wouldn't matter to her. However, her brother was studying at Wuning Elementary School, and he still needed to be a person. Yun Jian could cut off her own path, but she would never allow her brother to cut off his future because of her. The dead man is a killer. You all saw what happened just now. A sniper tried to assassinate me and even tried to cause a riot. Yun Jian's explanation was simple. Killer? That man was a killer? All the parents, including Ding Yin and Officer Wu, felt their hearts skip a beat when they heard what Yun Jian said. That fear was innate. How can you say that he's a killer? He's just a human trafficker. Do you think you're a piece of gold? Did he kidnap your brother just to threaten you? Pfft, who do you think you are? Do you need their threats? You just want to clear your name. Ding Yin didn't let go. In fact, Ding Yin wanted to tell Yun Jian to die immediately. Can you show evidence that the dead man is a killer? Otherwise, it will be difficult for us. Officer Wu was also in a difficult position. He looked at Yun Jian and said. Although Yun Jian was a member of the Advanced Special Forces, she had killed someone in public. If she did not explain herself clearly to everyone present, this matter would not end just like that. After all, no one had the right to kill in public, even if Yun Jian was an advanced special forces soldier. Of course, if Yun Jian had killed an assassin, with her identity as an ASF soldier, not only would she not be arrested, but she would also be rewarded greatly. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. She also knew that Officer Wu was in a difficult position. Yun Jian lifted her beautiful legs and walked towards the dead man. Seeing this, Officer Wu and the others also stepped forward. "Ask your man to show the back of his hand," Yun Jian said to Officer Wu, pointing at the deceased. Yun Jian was now 90% sure that this man was from the Inferno Ring. Although the Inferno Ring had been eradicated, and even the remaining forces had been wiped out. However, Yun Jian did not think that there was nothing left of the Inferno Ring. Moreover, the Tai Jin gang had not been wiped out. Moreover, the Inferno Ring's method of kidnapping her brother in her previous life was the same as it was now. Officer Wu waved his hand. Immediately, a policeman stepped forward and tore open the back of the dead man's hand. Then, a golden rose was printed on the back of the man's hand. It was extremely eye-catching. This is... Officer Wu pointed at the back of the man's hand and turned to ask Yun Jian. Chapter 661. The Inferno Ring's people have a golden rose on their back. This is not something an outsider can imitate. If you don't believe me, you can check it out in the underworld. I believe you'll be able to find the results very quickly. Yun Jian crossed her arms and stood there looking at Officer Wu. It was no longer a secret that the Inferno Ring's people had a golden rose on their back. Anyone in the underworld would know about it. That was why Yun Jian dared to say it. Officer Wu was afraid of pressuring Yun Jian, so he turned to one of his subordinates and said, "Go check it out immediately. Verify if the information is accurate." There was nothing he could do. Even if Officer Wu wanted to cover up for Yun Jian was the one who killed someone in public first. This matter had to be dealt with carefully. "Sorry, I'm afraid I'll have to make you wait," Officer Wu said to his subordinate, then turned to face Yun Jian respectfully. The Inferno Ring's people actually appeared here, and it was obvious that they were here to take revenge on Yun Jian. From this, it seemed that the fact that Yun Jian led a team to destroy the Inferno Ring was true. Officer Wu felt a chill run down his spine and swallowed his saliva. The killing god who led a team to destroy the Inferno Ring was here. How could he not be frightened? What kind of existence was the Inferno Ring? It was the world of assassins. And Yun Jian led a team to destroy them. What are you waiting for? Even if this man is an assassin, so what? She killed someone. This is an ironclad fact. She's just an ordinary girl, and she can kill people. What can she do in the future? You police officers should arrest her immediately and handcuff her hands first. She's a murderer. What if she runs away? Ding Yin saw that Officer Wu was biased towards Yun Jian. She was so angry that she gritted her teeth and pointed at Yun Jian. She looked like she really wanted the police to arrest Yun Jian immediately and interrogate her. "Shut up. If you don't shut up, I'll arrest you first." Officer Wu was a police officer. As a police officer, he had his own judgment. Now that he heard Ding Yin ordering him in front of him again and again, he felt as if he had lost control of himself. She was not his superior. Moreover, she was just an ordinary parent. How could she order the police around? Officer Wu couldn't take it anymore and yelled at Ding Yin. "You!" Ding Yin was a respectable lady both at home and outside. She had never been scolded like this before, so she was so scared that she shrank back. "Are you still a police officer? Aren't the people's police supposed to serve the people? Now that she's killed someone in front of us, you should arrest her. I'll take her to the police station and give her a good beating. Let's see if she'll confess. There's no need to say so much nonsense." Ding Yin continued to instruct Officer Wu, as if she was reasonable. However, no matter how many people present heard Ding Yin's words, they were all extremely displeased. "You! A woman like you is incurable." Officer Wu pointed at Ding Yin and shouted bitterly. However, What he said was what many people present were thinking. Who would arrest someone to extort a confession without first making things clear? That was a criminal law that only existed in ancient times. For a moment, Officer Wu hated Ding Yin. Reporting, we have the results. Officer Wu's subordinate had already closed the walkie-talkie and walked back and shouted to Officer Wu. What's the result? Officer Wu asked. Chapter 662. To be honest, Officer Wu breathed a sigh of relief when the person spoke. If the dead man was not an assassin, it would be difficult to deal with this matter. In addition to the incitement of the parents around them, Yun Jian would really be sent to jail. After all, even if she was a special forces soldier, she would be treated the same as an ordinary person. After all, there was an old saying that a prince would be punished the same as a commoner if he broke the law. In spite of this, Yun Jian was Gu Yunjian's woman, and she was also slashing god of Team Monarch. Now that slashing god of Team Monarch's name was known all over the world, the members of Team Monarch were famous as well. As for the 10 teams of advanced special forces who went with Yun Jian to take out Inferno Ring, they had been recruited by major international criminal police forces or reputable people. Shi Province's military had been raised several notches as well. All of this was thanks to Yun Jian. Officer Wu had heard of Yun Jian's name before, which was why he was so fearful of her. In spite of it, Ding Yin did not know Yun Jian's identity. Ding Yin did not know what Inferno Ring was, nor did she know what Team Monarch was, let alone who Slashing God was. That was why Ding Yin incited her again and again. There were many parents like Ding Yin present. They did not know that Officer Wu's claim that Yun Jian was Team Monarch Slashing God meant that she was an advanced special forces soldier. Everyone present even thought that Yun Jian was merely Xiao Yunju's elder sister, the parent of an ordinary student in Wuning Elementary School. To Ding Yin and the others, perhaps they did not know what Team Monarch and Inferno Ring represented. However, if Longmen City's Falcon Hall was mentioned, everyone present would probably know about it. Falcon Hall was the top mafia group in Longmen City. In spite of this, the people present did not know that Inferno Ring and Falcon Hall were incomparable. Perhaps in the eyes of those who did not know, Falcon Hall was more threatening than Inferno Ring. In fact, those who knew the truth knew that Falcon Hall and Inferno Ring could not be compared at all. The Inferno Ring was an international assassin organization. That was an ironclad fact. Falcon Hall, on the other hand, was merely the biggest mafia group in Longmen City. It was nothing outside of Longmen City, Shi Province, and even Country Z. Since the matter has been investigated clearly, you can go now. Officer Wu said respectfully to Yun Jian. Advanced Special Forces soldiers had the right to be hands-off. As long as the matter was not too complicated and she did not commit a serious crime like murder, the document in her hand was enough for her to clear her name and leave directly. This was the reason why Yun Jian had agreed to join the Advanced Special Forces with Gu Junjian. What? Leave? She just threatened my daughter and killed someone. Why should she leave? The clueless Ding Yin had no idea that Yun Jian was an Advanced Special Forces soldier. Therefore, when she heard that Officer Wu was going to let Yun Jian go, she immediately shouted. Even if the person she killed was a criminal who deserved to die, she still killed someone. She's just a normal person. She'll be jailed for at least a few days if she kills someone. Moreover, it's hard to guarantee that she won't kill innocent people. Why should she leave? Ding Yin continued to shout, even blocking Yun Jian's path to prevent Yun Jian from leaving. Why? Because she's an Advanced Special Forces soldier. She killed an unpardonable assassin. This is the duty of the Advanced Special Forces. Tell me, why should she? Officer Wu shouted back at Ding Yin. Chapter 663. Advanced Special Forces? Part of their job. The parents who were hiding in the flower bed were all stunned when they heard that. Most of the people present had heard of the Advanced Special Forces. Even if they did not know about the Advanced Special Forces, at least there would not be anyone present who did not know what the Special Forces were. Advanced Special Forces, that's the Special Forces. Usually, only the military would have special forces, and every special forces soldier had absolute strength. Even an ordinary special forces soldier could be so powerful, let alone a special forces soldier with the word advanced in front of it. Everyone present was stunned. What? Advanced? Special forces soldier? Ding Yin's grip on Tian Pei loosened. When she first heard that, she was so shocked that Tian Pei almost fell to the ground. Ding Yin remembered that one of her husband's friends was a special forces soldier. Back then, that special forces soldier had bragged in front of her husband. In fact, her husband was quite envious of him and even said that he would laugh in his dreams if he could really become a special forces soldier. That special forces soldier had not only bragged in front of Ding Yin's husband, he had also bragged in front of Ding Yin. He had even mentioned the advanced special forces soldier and bragged that he knew an advanced special forces soldier. It was from that person that Ding Yin learned about the advanced special forces. They were a group of people who were many times more powerful than the special forces soldiers. Even Ding Yin's husband's friend, the special forces soldier, was proud that he knew an advanced special forces soldier. It was obvious how powerful the identity of an advanced special forces soldier was. And now, Officer Wu was saying that Yun Jian was an advanced special forces soldier in front of so many people? Even if Officer Wu was lying, even if he was spouting nonsense, he would never lie in front of everyone and say that Yun Jian was an advanced special forces soldier. After all, it was not easy to lie like this. That meant that Yun Jian was really an advanced special forces soldier. So, can I leave now? Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and raised her brows slightly. She didn't want to reveal her identity, but things had happened so suddenly that she had killed a member of the Inferno Ring. Xiao Yunju would still study at Wuning Elementary School in the future, and if she did not reveal her identity, these parents would automatically label her as a murderer. Even if Officer Wu knew that she was not, these parents would at least warn their children to stay away from Xiao Yunju because his sister was a murderer. Yun Jian didn't want Xiao Yunju to bear all this. She wanted Xiao Yunju to grow up happily. If Yun Jian revealed her identity as an advanced special forces soldier, none of the parents present would think of Yun Jian as a murderer. This was the difference between an ordinary person killing someone who should have been killed and an advanced special forces soldier killing someone who should have been killed. If the advanced special forces killed an assassin, the people present would only think that Yun Jian was amazing and was serving the people. If Yun Jian was just an ordinary person, then there was a problem. Why would an ordinary person like her kill someone? In everyone's eyes, this could only be described as abnormal. That's enough. Let's go. Officer Wu nodded quickly. Yun Jian nodded. She didn't even look at Ding Yin and her mother as she turned and walked towards Xiao Yunju. Officer Wu ignored Ding Yin as well and quickly led his team to clean up the scene. Ding Yin stood where she was, dumbfounded. "Io, you idiot." Just as Ding Yin was still dumbfounded, Wang Ba's mother saw that the surroundings had calmed down and guessed that the police must have eliminated the snipers. She pulled Wang Ba out and stood in front of Ding Yin. "What's wrong?" Ding Yin was already upset, so she asked Wang Ba's mother indifferently. Chapter 664. Wang Ba's mother was truly regretting it now. She regretted provoking Yun Jian. No matter how she thought about it, she would never have guessed that Yun Jian was New Cruise's director. In fact, Wang Ba's mother regretted it when she went against Yun Jian back then. After all, it was Wang Ba who snatched Xiao Yunju's candy first. Just because of such a trivial matter, New Cruise stopped selling cars to their family in the future. Wang Ba's mother's regret was not something a normal person could understand. Moreover, many imported cars and even limited edition sports cars were only available in New Cruise. Wang Ba's mother could forget about it. Even if other car marketing companies had imported cars and Wang Ba's mother's family could purchase cars from other car dealerships, what about limited edition sports cars? Although Wang Ba's mother's family could not afford limited edition sports cars, at least they could go to New Cruise to see how limited edition sports cars looked like if they did not provoke Yun Jian. However, if they provoked Yun Jian, they would not even be able to enter New Cruise's entrance. Wang Ba's mother had experienced the feeling deeply, so she was helpless. That was why Wang Ba's mother spoke to Ding Yin with the tone of an experienced person. It was too late. When Wang Ba's mother came to speak to her just now, Ding Yin did not seem bothered at first. However, after hearing what Wang Ba's mother said, Ding Yin's eyes widened and she shouted almost at the same time, "What? New Cruise's director? Who in Longmen City did not know about New Cruise? Who did not know about New Cruise's director?" It was the company that held Country Z's biggest auto show the first time it was listed and rose to fame overnight. Now, it was the most famous company in the country. Such a company was actually Yunjian's. This. Ding Yin's mother's hands went limp from the shock and she almost fainted. Tian Pei, who was in Ding Yin's arms, was thrown to the ground because of the latter's weak grip. Ah! Tian Pei howled in pain. Tian Pei was still a child, but the fall would hurt for a few days at least. Of course, this was all Ding Yin's fault and had nothing to do with Yunjian. Yunjian had just returned to the flower bed where Xiao Yunju and Duanli were, when she saw that Xiao Yunju had already woken up while rubbing his small eyes. Duanli had been protecting the unconscious Xiao Yunju. She only started chatting with Xiao Yunju when he woke up. Seeing Yunjian coming over, Duanli became even more excited and shouted at Yunjian, "Sister, you're here. Yunju is awake." "Okay." Yunjian and Duanli looked at each other and smiled, then walked over. Because of this incident, the school was dismissed in the afternoon. After all, they could only return to school after the police had investigated the whole story. Otherwise, if he continued to go to school, he wouldn't even be able to guarantee his life. What was the point of going to school? This meant that Xiao Yunju and the others were on vacation again. After asking Duanli, Yunjian found out that Duanli had no one to pick her up from school this time. Even Duanli usually went to school and went home alone. Seeing that Xiao Yunju was worried about Duanli going home alone, Yunjian planned to send Duanli home. Just as she brought Xiao Yunju and Duanli to the gate, Yunjian saw Adam and Lan Su rushing back like a rocket. The two of them ran to Yunjian almost at the same time. "Where did you guys go?" Yunjian saw the two of them and asked. "To kill the sniper," Adam and Lan Su said in unison. After that, Adam and Lan Su looked at each other and glared at each other. Yunjian's mouth twitched. Lan Su explained, "I was the one who killed that sniper just now." "Nonsense, young madam, I killed the sniper with a gun." Adam did not back down. Chapter 665. Yunjian had guessed early on that Adam and Lan Su had gone to kill the sniper. But she hadn't thought that Adam and Lan Su would fight to claim credit in front of her. "Yunjian, that sniper was indeed killed by my darts." Lan Su didn't back down at all after hearing Adam's words. A trace of annoyance appeared on her proud and cool face. Lan Su's words were directed at Yunjian. Seeing Lan Su's serious expression, Adam suddenly smiled. Then he looked at Lan Su, then at Yunjian, and said in a resigned tone, "Fine. You killed that sniper. I'm a man, so I won't argue with a little girl like you." Adam and Emosen followed beside Ce. Emosen was the kind of person who would never claim credit in front of Ce, while Adam had a fiery personality and was the kind of person who would say anything. Although Lan Su had lived for thousands of years in the Yulong continent, on Earth, she looked only 16 or 17 years old. She did fit Adam's description of her as a little girl. Adam and Emosen were both older than Ce and were in their early 20s. Hearing Adam call her a little girl, Lan Su cast a sidelong glance at Adam. Her cold and proud face carried a trace of annoyance. "Yunjian, I don't like to walk with him." "Let him go," Lan Su said directly to Yunjian. Lan Su was from the Yulong continent. She didn't understand the ways of the world, and she didn't know how to treat people with respect. She was very straightforward with her words. Yunjian curled her lips slightly. She was very helpless, and then she turned to look at Adam. Yunjian didn't say anything. Hearing Lan Su's words, Adam continued to bicker with Lan Su. Hey, I'll go my way, you cross your bridge. I don't think we have any deep grudges, right? Yun Jian didn't say anything, but Adam didn't dare to leave. He was sent back by the young master to serve Yun Jian. If he dared to leave now, Adam dared to guarantee that the door of the Amazon forest would be open for him anytime. Furthermore, Shuang was the most unreliable one. Once he made a mistake, Shuang would definitely send him to the Amazon forest. Even though he had the best relationship with Shuang, the clothes that Shuang had given him had been snatched away by Ce to be used as a cloak for Yun Jian. Once Shuang heard Ce's words, he would definitely become a bad friend. Adam pursed his lips. Yun Jian smiled. Then she touched Duan Li's head and said indifferently, "You all go back first. I'll send Chestnut back before going home." After hearing Yun Jian's words, Lan Su and Adam nodded obediently. "Oh, right." Yun Jian suddenly thought of something and asked. Lan Su and Adam stopped in their tracks. With one hand holding Xiao Yunju and the other hand holding Duanli, Yun Jian had already brought everyone to a less crowded area. Yun Jian looked up at Lan Su and Adam. Using a tone that Xiao Yunju and Duanli couldn't hear clearly, she asked, "Have you dealt with the sniper's body?" This time, Adam nodded first and said, "I've already dealt with it." "Did you find out where they came from?" This was what Yun Jian wanted to know the most. She wanted to know who sent the assassins to kill her. She, Yun Jian, was not a person to be messed with. Who dared to kill her and even tried to kidnap Xiao Yunju? She definitely wouldn't let them go. "I've already reported it to the organization. They're still investigating." Adam continued. When Adam was speaking, Lan Su had been standing at the side. She turned her head away and didn't listen to Adam. "Are big sister and big brother Adam fighting?" Xiao Yunju also turned his head and looked at Duanli. The big sister here was naturally Lan Su. Xiao Yunju didn't know Lan Su's name yet, so he used big sister instead. Chapter 666. Duanli didn't know what flirting meant, but she heard from a classmate named Little Hui in her class that the current situation was very similar to what Little Hui had said, so Duanli said it out loud. Oh, Xiao Yunju seemed to understand immediately. He pretended to be a little adult and nodded. He pretended to understand and replied to Duanli, "Then big sister and big brother Adam are flirting." The big sister he was referring to was Lan Su. To Xiao Yunju, as long as someone treated him well and was older than him, even if he didn't know their name, he would call them big sister. I think that should be the case. Duanli still didn't know that she had misled Xiao Yunju. She nodded and then grinned. Duanli's little face had a slight smile. Just looking at it made people want to pinch her pink little face. No matter how soft Xiao Yunju and Duanli's conversation was, Yun Jian still heard it. Lan Su and Adam had good hearing, so naturally, they heard everything clearly. After hearing Xiao Yunju and Duanli's conversation, Lan Su and Adam's hearts immediately thumped. The two suddenly turned their heads. Neither of them wanted to pay attention to the other. They also stopped bickering, as if they were afraid that Xiao Yunju and Duanli would misunderstand again. However, Lan Su wouldn't yell at Xiao Yunju or Duanli in front of Yun Jian. With Ce around, Adam didn't dare to do it either. After Xiao Yunju and Duanli said that, Yun Jian felt awkward for Lan Su and Adam. She pursed her lips again, then said to Lan Su and Adam, "You guys go back first." She was waiting for this sentence. Lan Su and Adam replied at the same time, Right after they finished speaking, Lan Su glared at Adam fiercely, then turned around and left quickly. Adam didn't move either. The two of them quickly disappeared from Yun Jian's sight. "Alright, Chestnut, where do you live? Big sister will take you home now," Yun Jian said as she reached out to rub Duanli's head again. At the mention of home, Duanli's little body trembled slightly. Yun Jian noticed Duanli's reaction. Yun Jian frowned slightly but didn't ask further. "Miss, Can you go and pick up my little sister from school first? Her name is Duanya and she's a very obedient child. She won't make a fuss. Duanli asked Yunjian politely. Where does your sister go to school? Yunjian did not expect Duanli to have a younger sister. She was slightly stunned, but her expression did not change. She attends Lu Baobao Kindergarten on Sanzi Street. Little sister, I'll take you there. Duanli said, holding Yunjian's hand and leading the way habitually. With Duanli leading the way, the three of them soon arrived at Lu Baobao Kindergarten on Sanzi Street. After picking up Duanli's little sister, Duanya, Yunjian took Duanli and Duanya home. On the way, Xiao Yunju even plucked up the courage to ask Duanli, Chestnut, do you pick up your little sister from school every day? Duanli smiled brightly, yes, my little sister is very obedient. Duanli's calm words touched people's hearts. She was only an 8-year-old child herself, but she had to pick up her little sister from school every day. Yunjian suddenly felt a little pity for Duanli. Duanli was very steady in doing things. She couldn't not be steady and couldn't be a child, because she had a little sister. She had to mature. By the time she took Duanli and Duanya back to Duanli's house, the group had already walked for more than 10 minutes. More than 10 minutes later, the group arrived at an apartment that was filled with garbage everywhere, as if no one had cleaned it. There were very few people living in this apartment, and it looked like no one usually cleaned it. Duanli took them to the 3rd floor and opened her door. Chapter 667. Yunjian's eyelids twitched. The first thing she saw was beer bottles all over the floor. The strong smell of beer, coupled with the rotting smell coming from inside the house, mixed together to create a strong stench. There were very few things in the house. There was only one bedroom and one living room. There was only a small table in the living room that looked like it would break at any time. Other than that, there was a low bed by the window in the living room. The blanket on the bed was very thin. Especially in winter like this, when people were lying on the bed, the cold wind would blow in through the cracks in the window at night. Other than 4 to 5 bowls, chopsticks, and an old stove, there was nothing else. This was Duanli's house. Yunjian could tell from Duanli's clothes that she was not a girl from a rich family. Yunjian would never measure a person's worth with money. However, Yunjian did not expect Duanli's family to be so poor. In fact, Duanli was a poor student. She was studying at Wuning Elementary School with the help of the state's financial aid for poor students. Duanli's sister, Duanya, was also in a similar situation. Without the financial aid from the state, Duanli's family would not even be able to enter the school. Miss Yunju, my dad isn't home. Come in. I'll get you a glass of water. Duanli pulled her 6-year-old sister to the low bed by the window in the living room and let her sit on it. Then, she said to Yunjian and Xiao Yunju. Duanli then went to the kitchen and poured a glass of water for Yunjian and Xiao Yunju. Yunjian and Xiao Yunju took the water. After Duanli handed Yunjian and Xiao Yunju the water, she sensibly walked over to pick up the beer bottles on the floor and put them on the stairs in the corridor. She planned to throw them down the stairs together with the trash in the future. Xiao Yunju did not mind the environment here. He even sat on the only bench in the house and chatted with Duanli. Duanli's younger sister, Duanya, didn't say a word from beginning to end. Yunjian didn't mind the environment here. She was also invited by Duanli to sit on Duanli and Duanya's small bed. Needless to say, it was time for Yunjian to figure it out. The house had 1 bedroom and 1 living room. There wasn't even a toilet. If they wanted to go to the toilet, they had to go to the public toilet downstairs. Since Duanli and Duanya were sleeping on this shabby bed by the window in the living room, that bedroom must be their father's bedroom. From this, it could be inferred that Duanli and Duanya's father did not even have the most basic fatherly love for his 2 children, let alone spoiling them. Yunjian suddenly felt sorry for Duanli. Miss, my dad won't be coming home today. Why don't you stay for dinner? I'm a great cook. Duanli invited Yunjian sincerely. Yun Jian hesitated for a moment, but finally nodded. Yun Jian noticed that every time Duanli mentioned her father, she would be a little scared. And from what Duanli said just now, if her father came home today, Duanli wouldn't dare to ask her and Xiao Zhu to stay for dinner. Looking at Duanli's expression of wanting to show off, Yun Jian finally nodded and smiled at Duanli. Then, Duanli ran to the stove and began to cook as if she was an expert. After a while, a pot of food that was quite sumptuous for Duanli and her sister was out of the oven. It was a bowl of porridge with only a small handful of rice. There were also a few vegetables floating on top of the porridge. The world was so unfair. The rich drove luxury cars while the poor couldn't even afford to have enough food and clothing. To Duanli, it was already a sumptuous meal to have vegetables mixed in the food. Chapter 668. There were 4 or 5 bowls and chopsticks in Duanli's house. She took 3 bowls and filled them with porridge from the pot. Then, she took a pair of chopsticks and filled the bowls for Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju. After that, she took the bowls back and forth and passed them to Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju. Then, Duanli poured a bowl for her younger sister. Duanya didn't make a sound. She was a little afraid of Yun Jian and the others. Because of her natural fear of strangers, she didn't say a word until the end. Duanli passed the bowl to her, and Duanya picked up the bowl and chopsticks. Her small hands picked up the chopsticks rather clumsily. She stirred the porridge furiously and wolfed it down. Yun Jian felt a little sad seeing this, but under Duanli's expectant gaze, Yun Jian still picked up the bowl and swallowed all the porridge in it. It's delicious. Xiao Yunju gave Duanli a thumbs up and smiled at her after he finished eating. Xiao Yunju didn't think that the living conditions here were too bad for him to stay, and he wouldn't use all sorts of excuses to refuse to stay for dinner because of the poor living conditions. In fact, when Yun Jian found Xiao Yunju in her previous life, Xiao Yunju was in the orphanage at that time. Although the orphanage was maintained by a charity organization, it was useless if there wasn't enough money to donate. This group of orphan children could only sleep in the worst places and barely eat their fill. Xiao Yunju had gone through such a hard life, and he could understand that. Therefore, he wouldn't despise Duanli's family. Xiao Yunju's praise made Duanli smile happily. She looked at Xiao Yunju and said to Xiao Yunju, "Eat more then, I'll get more for you when you finish." "What about you?" "Chestnut, you haven't eaten yet?" Yunju asked when he saw that Duanli had yet to pick up her bowl after he was done with the porridge. "I'm fine. I'm not hungry. You should eat more." Duanli shook her head and smiled at Xiao Yunju. Her family could only cook so much rice a day. If she cooked too much and her father found out, he would beat her and her sister again and say that they were greedy. What's more, she had added the only side dish they had today, vegetables. However, she didn't add much. Duanli knew that if their father came back and saw that there were fewer vegetables, he would definitely beat them again. "No, if you don't eat, then I won't eat either." Xiao Yunju's attitude was very firm. Duanli was suddenly touched. She picked up Xiao Yunju's bowl and ran to get him a bowl of porridge. Then, as she walked, she said, "Okay, then you can have half and I'll have half." After saying that, Duanli filled Xiao Yunju's bowl with half a bowl of rice and poured another half for herself. Duanli finally picked up the bowl to eat the porridge. Yun Jian also smiled. Duanli had only taken 2 mouthfuls of porridge when she heard footsteps coming from downstairs. Duanli's heart skipped a beat. Yun Jian frowned. Just then, a rather handsome man in his 30s walked in through the open door. Behind this man was a rich woman in her 40s or 50s, who was decked out in gold and silver. "Dad." Duanli didn't expect her father to come back. She was so scared that the bowl in her hand slipped and fell to the ground, and the sound of the bowl breaking could be heard. The man in the lead was quite handsome, and he looked 50% similar to Duanli and Duanya. When she saw the man, Duanya, who was sitting on the bed, was so scared that she curled up into a ball. Duanli's father was called Duanshi. Duansher looked decent, and it wasn't hard to tell that he was a rather handsome man when he was young. However, at the moment, he looked a little dispirited, especially when he saw Duanli and Duanya. His brows were tightly knitted together. When he saw Yunjian and Xiao Yunju, Duansher didn't even ask anything and yelled at Duanli, "Duanli! Didn't I tell you that you're not allowed to bring outsiders to our house? And how dare you break our bowl? Do you want to die?" Chapter 669. From Duansher's actions, it was obvious that hitting Duanli was nothing out of the ordinary for him. Duanli asked Yunjian and Xiao Yunju to stay for dinner. She did not expect her father to come home that night. Because his father would only come home late at night with the smell of beer all over his body. Therefore, when she saw Duansher, she was completely dumbfounded. "Go to hell." Duansher's ferocious and venomous voice rang out, carrying with it an unacceptable sense of unreasonableness. At the same time, Duansher's broom was right above Duanli's forehead. "Don't hit little chestnut. Get lost." Xiao Yunju immediately rushed out and extended his small arms to block Duansher's blow. Duansher would even hit his own daughter, let alone someone who was not related to him by blood. He waved the broom and viciously swung it at Xiao Yunju's head. If he was not careful, this strike could even paralyze Xiao Yunju. After all, a child's body was very fragile. The rich woman who was in her 40s or 50s who stood behind Duansher was even more excited when she saw the scene. Shaking her thick legs, she watched as Duansher swung the broom at Yunju and Duanli like she was watching a show. Just as the rich woman saw Duansher raise the broom above Xiao Yunju's head and was about to hit Xiao Yunju's head heavily, a figure blocked in front of Xiao Yunju like a flash of lightning. Then, they saw Yunjian reach out. She gently reached out and caught the broom that Duansher was swinging at her. Swoosh! Everyone present could only hear the soft sound of the broom being swung. Other than that, there was no other sound. Suddenly, Yunjian caught the broom. Duansher frowned and looked at Yunjian. His originally handsome face suddenly scrunched up. He looked at Yunjian ferociously and shouted, "Who are you? Why are you at my house? Why are you meddling in my family's business? Get lost, get lost. I'm hitting my own daughter, what does it have to do with you?" Duansher's words were overbearing and self-righteous. Yunjian frowned. She looked at Duansher and stood in front of Duanli, who was trembling in fear, and Xiao Yunju, who had stepped forward to save Duanli. Yunjian's aura carried the arrogance of a ruler. She looked at Duansher, and naturally, she had already guessed the situation of Duanli's family. "It doesn't matter who I am, but I have to get involved in today's matter." Yunjian's voice rang out, causing Duansher and the rich woman standing behind her to shiver. Of course, it was just a shiver. Her age was not enough to threaten Duansher and the rich woman. "Honey, isn't this your home? What does hitting your own daughter have to do with her? And who is she? If they come to your house, you can sue them for trespassing." The rich woman walked over and leaned against Duansher. She used her elephant legs and fat butt to stick to Duansher as she shouted intimately. Yunjian knew what was going on right away. This Duansher was good-looking, but his family was so poor. If she guessed correctly, this Duansher was probably kept by this rich woman in front of her. In this day and age, it was not necessary for a rich man to keep a woman as a mistress. As long as one was rich, a woman could still keep a man as a mistress. Mei, sit down first. I'll serve you after I've dealt with these two shameless cheese in my house. Duansher shouted intimately at the rich woman. Then, he turned around and looked at Duanli and Duanya with a furious expression. He was indeed kept by this rich woman's husband, who was worth tens of millions. The rich woman also relied on her husband's money to keep him as a mistress. It was also because this rich woman named Shirmei came from a wealthy family that Duansher chose to be with her even though she was ugly and was 20 to 30 years older than him. Chapter 670. Duansher turned to look at Yunjian after speaking to Shirmei intimately. "This is my family's business. Scram. Otherwise, I'll call the police. You can wait to go to jail. Duansher glared at Yunjian, his tone harsh and uncourteous. Just as Duansher finished, Shirmei fished out a newly bought phone from her bag like she was showing off and dialed 110 in front of everyone. Country Z's first 110 police station was set up in 1986. It was now 1999 and Longmen City was one of the more economically developed cities in Country Z. Therefore, a 110 police station had been set up a long time ago. After Shirmei took out her phone, she waved it in front of Yunjian like she was showing off. Then, she used her plump hand with bright red nail polish that looked fashionable in this era to dial 110. However, she did not make the call directly. Duansher turned to see that Shirmei had already dialed the police number. He snickered at Shirmei and turned to threaten Yunjian again in a vicious tone. If you don't scram, we'll call the police right away. We have phones. Haha. Duansher was full of bragging as he spoke. He felt that he was rich now that he was riding on Shirmei's coattails. Jijia, Yunju, leave now. Duanli was obviously afraid of Duansher, but she walked over anyway and tugged at the corner of Yunjian's shirt as she told Yunjian. Scram, scram. And you two damn brats, I'll definitely kill you later. How dare you disregard my words? Duansher scolded Yunjian first before he spoke in a menacing tone like he was going to swallow Duanli and Duanya alive. It was not hard to imagine how Duanli and Duanya would be tortured by Duansher if Yunjian really left with Xiao Yunju. Yunjian pulled Duanli into her arms without a trace. She glared at Duansher with a sharp gaze before she let go of Duanli. I won't allow you to bully Chestnut. Xiao Yunju stood in front of Duanli and Yunjian. He stretched out his arms and glared at Duansher with his small black eyes. His stare was so intense that it almost bored a hole in Duansher's body. It was a pity that Duansher had been frightened since he was young. Xiao Yunju's threats had no effect on Duansher. Xiao Zhu, let's go. Yunjian let go of Duanli's hand, then grabbed Xiao Yunju's hand and walked towards the door. Sister, why? If we leave, Chestnut will be bullied. Xiao Yunju was stunned. He always thought that his sister was very powerful. Why did his sister want to leave when Chestnut was in danger? Duansher and Shirmei, who was standing behind them with her phone in her hand, smiled contemptuously at Yunjian. They thought that Yunjian was frightened by them. Just as Yunjian held Xiao Yunju's hand and walked between Duansher and Shirmei and was about to walk out of the door, Yunjian suddenly turned around and kicked Duansher. The strength of this kick was so strong that it suddenly knocked Duansher to the ground. Duansher's face was smashed to the ground, and his front teeth were bleeding instantly. At the same time, Yunjian strode forward. She snatched the phone from Shirmei's hand before she could react. Then, she pounced forward and kicked Shirmei to the ground with a roundhouse kick. Shirmei's plump body slammed hard against the door behind her. She was in so much pain that she almost suffocated. Duansher and Shirmei only recovered from their shock after they were sent flying by the kick. Yunjian wanted to leave just now because she wanted to stop Shirmei from calling 110 to call the police. She was so good at acting. More importantly, how could this 16-year-old girl have such powerful skills? Chapter 671. Duansher and Shirmei had yet to recover from their shock when they were sent flying by the kick. Xiao Yunju and Duanli both looked at Yunjian with admiration. Duansher and Shirmei were obviously terrified. Yunjian's skills were uncanny and frightening. How could there be a 16 or 17-year-old girl who pretended to leave just a second ago and turned around to send someone flying with a kick as fast as she could when she reached the door? Duansher and Shirmei were used to the evils of society. They had already thought of themselves as people who were familiar with the cruelty of reality and were the pioneers of society. Duansher, in particular, could have anything he wanted ever since he fell in love with a rich woman like Shirmei. Money for beer was not a problem at all. Recently, Duansher had been behaving as respectfully as he could and often did not return home at night. Coming home today, Duansher had planned to abandon his children and take some necessities to enjoy himself with Shimei. However, he did not expect to see two strangers, Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju, as soon as he got home. Duansher was poor and was unwilling to go to work to earn money. He had also never raised his two children at home. It was Longmen City's government that was paying for their livelihood. Duansher even had to use the funds given by the government to buy beer, let alone support Duanli and Duanya. In fact, it was only recently that Duansher had stopped taking the money given to his children by the government because he had fallen in love with a rich woman like Shimei. Of course, if he wanted Duansher to give Duanli and Duanya living expenses, there was no way. Beep, beep, beep. Just as Duansher was sent flying and his front teeth were bleeding and he was thinking about killing Yun Jian and his two burdens, the sound of a phone being dialed rang. Yun Jian's hand pressed the confirm button on Shimei's phone softly. Shimei's phone had already dialed 110, but she and Duansher had been threatening Yun Jian. Moreover, Shimei and Duansher only knew how to dial the number. They did not have the courage to call the police. Especially Shimei, who was now using her husband's money to support Duansher. If she really went to the police station to make a statement, it would definitely alarm her husband. If Shimei's husband found out about Shimei and Duansher's scandal, it would be difficult to deal with this matter. Moreover, not to mention taking money from Shimei's husband to give to Duansher, even Shimei herself would face marriage problems with her husband. At that time, even Shimei would turn from a rich woman to a penniless one. Therefore, Shimei did not dare to call the police. At most, she only wanted to threaten Yun Jian. But he never thought that Yun Jian wouldn't fall for it. Yun Jian naturally saw through Shimei's thoughts. She snatched the phone just to call the police. After the phone rang 3 times, Shimei and Duansher instantly realized the danger they were in. They ignored the pain from being thrown to the ground and the door and rushed toward Yun Jian as soon as they got up. Shimei shouted and screamed at the same time. Her fiery voice no longer had its initial tranquility. Give it back to me. Give it back to me. You'd *mn woman, give it back to me. Do you believe that we won't find someone to kill you? Give us back our phones now. Duansher threatened Yun Jian as he looked at her ferociously. Duansher also knew some gangsters, so he threatened Yun Jian even more vigorously. However, Duansher was smarter than Shimei. He was kicked by Yun Jian just now, so he did not dare to go forward. Shimei, on the other hand, rushed forward without a care. However, just as Shimei reached Yun Jian pulled Xiao Yunju and Duanli to avoid her. Chapter 672. I'm reporting domestic violence against a child at home. The address is Unit 302, Block 3, Residential Apartment, East Street, Sanyang Road. Yun Jian told her address and everything in one breath. When Shimei rushed over, Yun Jian had already told her everything, including their address. Yun Jian knew the address so well because she had a habit. No matter where she went, she would look at the street signs around her, including the house numbers. Of course, she would only take a quick glance. Others might not be able to see anything, but she had already memorized all the street signs and house numbers. In fact, in daily life, street signs, house numbers, and even the building of the apartment were all indicated. It all depended on whether one would look and pay attention in real life. Of course, Yun Jian had a good memory, so she remembered all of it. When Yun Jian reported the address accurately, Duansher and Shimei were dumbfounded. At that moment, Yun Jian had already hung up on Shimei's phone. She was wearing sportswear today because she was attending Xiao Yunju's parent-child sports day. Her phone was a heavy item, so she did not bring it. Instead, she brought a butterfly knife. Because the butterfly knife was something she was used to using. Seeing that Yun Jian had already hung up on the phone, Shimei flew into a rage. She turned to glare at Duansher and shouted, "What should we do? What should we do? She already made the call. How did she know your address? Were you the one who told her about it? You did it on purpose, didn't you? Anyway, this has nothing to do with me." You can do whatever you want. Because Shimei was afraid, she pushed all the blame to Duanshi. After saying that, Shimei grabbed her bag and wanted to run away. Because Shimei was nervous, she did not even want to take her phone back. No. I didn't say it. Mei, I came back with you. How could I lie to you? Duanshi quickly turned around and pulled Shimei. Then, Duanshi pushed all the blame to Duanli. Duanshi glared at Duanli and spoke in a fierce tone. That fierce tone did not have the slightest trace of father-daughter affection. He looked at Duanli and roared, "Was it you who gave her my address just now? You little bitch, I'll kill you later." Not only did Duanshi have no fatherly affection for Duanli and Duanya, he even hated them. Usually, he would hit and kick them. When he was drunk, Duanshi would even smash a beer bottle on Duanli's head. Duanli had a cut on her head from the beer bottle shards, but because of her hair, no one could see it. Father. Duanli shrunk back in fear. She could already imagine how Duanshi would scold and beat her. Xiao Yunju, Duanshi, Duanli, Duanshi, and Duanshi Mei and Duanshi. Looking at Duanshi, Yunjian's right hand had been in her pocket since the beginning. *TCH. Just you wait. If I don't kill you, I'm not human. Just you wait. Duanshi did not dare to attack Duanli as she was protected by Yunjian. Therefore, Duanshi could only threaten Duanli verbally. At that moment, Duanshi wanted to tear Duanli into pieces. After saying that, Duanshi held Shimei's hand and the two of them planned to escape. At that moment, police sirens were heard from the door. Duanshi and Shimei's hearts tightened. Why did the police come so quickly? At that moment, 3 or 4 police officers came up the stairs. As soon as the police officers entered the stairs, Yunjian saw a familiar face. Chapter 673. Officer Wu received a new mission not long after he finished his work at Wuning Elementary School. Someone reported domestic violence. Usually, domestic violence could be mediated with the neighborhood committee first. If the mediation failed, the police would intervene. However, according to the police records, it was not the first time Duanshi's family had been reported for domestic violence. The police had even intervened before. Duanshi had been sent to the police station more than once. However, he was released in the end. Duanli and Duanya were often beaten up badly by Duanshi. Even the other owners of the apartment could not stand it anymore. Therefore, someone had already reported Duanshi. Duanshi had also been arrested and sent to the police station, but he was eventually released without charge. Of course, the other owners of the apartment would not watch Duanshi for domestic violence for the sake of Duanli and Duanya. Therefore, Duanshi would only hit his daughters when there was no one around. Other than that, Duanshi would only hit Duanli and Duanya in front of others when he was drunk. Otherwise, Duanshi would vent his anger on his daughters when he was angry. It was also because of this that Officer Wu was sent here before he even returned to the police station after finishing his work. Moreover, it was not Officer Wu's first time here, so he was familiar with the place. However, Officer Wu did not expect to see Yun Jian right after he finished his work at Wuning Elementary School. Yun Jian was an advanced special forces soldier. She was Team Monarch/God. Therefore, Officer Wu was shocked when he saw Yun Jian. Yun Jian merely smiled at Officer Wu. Duanshi and Shimei were already nervous. When Officer Wu greeted Yun Jian the moment he entered, they were even more shocked. Yun Jian, she knows a police officer? If that was the case, are you the one who reported the case? Just as Duanshi and Shimei were feeling guilty, Officer Wu asked Yun Jian. Officer Wu did not even look at Duanshi and Shimei. Yun Jian nodded slightly. We've investigated this matter many times. You're Mr. Duan, right? Officer Wu looked at Duanshi and was not unfamiliar with him. The news of Duanshi beating up Duanli and Duanya had already spread throughout the apartment complex. Some of the owners could not stand it anymore and had already called the police. The neighborhood committee had tried to persuade Duansher, and the police had tried to detain Duansher, but it was useless. Because the police station did not have absolute evidence to prove the severity of Duansher's domestic violence, it was not enough to put Duansher behind bars. Duansher only glanced at Officer Wu and did not reply. But in reality, Officer Wu knew who Duansher was even without asking. Regarding your abuse of the child, Officer Wu was interrupted by Duansher before he could finish his sentence. Motherf asterisk Ker, the child is mine. I can hit him however I want. What can you do about it? Duansher cursed at Officer Wu. Anyone who heard Duansher's inhumane words would feel a wave of displeasure well up in their hearts. Officer Wu also cursed Duansher in his heart. It was mainly because he didn't have any conclusive evidence to arrest Duansher. Otherwise, Officer Wu would have already arrested someone like Duansher and sent him to jail. In 1999, video recorders and audio recorders were not everywhere. At least, the owners of the apartments did not have them. Otherwise, if someone had recorded the scene of Duansher abusing the child or his abuse of the child, Duansher would have been sent to jail long ago. Chapter 674. Did you tell her my address just now? You little b asterisk tch, I'm going to kill you both later. Dad. You'd asterisk mnb asterisk tch. Just you wait. I won't be human if I don't kill you. Just you wait. The voice came from Yunjian's sweatpants pocket. It was Duansher insulting Duanli before Officer Wu arrived. When the recording ended, Yunjian took out the mini recorder from her pocket. The recorder was small and Yunjian had asked Zhang Jifan to prepare it for her. Now that New Cruise was growing in scale and had begun expanding across the country, Yunjian planned to expand the company to other regions with its headquarters in Longmen City after some time. New Cruise's name in Country Z would be fully established. Of course, it was not something that could be done in a day and there was no hurry. As for the recorder, Yunjian had asked Zhang Jifan to purchase it from overseas. She knew that she would need the recorder in many ways, so Yunjian had asked Zhang Jifan to purchase a mini recorder for her. Zhang Jifan had just gotten the recorder for Yunjian as well. Yunjian had brought it with her today, but she did not expect the first use of the recorder to be on Duansher. With the recorded conversation, Duansher could do nothing even if he wanted to quibble. Officer Wu had been displeased with Duansher for a long time. Of course, it was purely because of Duansher's inhumanity. He did not treat his daughter as a human being but as a punching bag. Anyone who did such a thing would be despised. Officer Wu could not get any evidence of Duansher's actions before this, but with the recording in Yunjian's hands, he could arrest Duansher immediately. Duanli did have many injuries on her as well. Once Yunjian's recorder was out, Duansher would not be able to escape from prison. Therefore, when Duansher heard the recording, his face instantly turned pale from rosy to pale. Give it to me. Damned girl, give it to me. Duansher did not care about anything else as he charged towards Yunjian with a ferocious look on his face. Duansher pounced on Yunjian fiercely, but Yunjian merely narrowed her eyes. Yunjian did not move or make a sound. Be careful. Looking at Duansher lunging at Yunjian, Officer Wu's murderous move made him freeze in shock. Yunjian raised her leg and kicked Duansher to the ground. Officer Wu also breathed a sigh of relief. Taking advantage of the time when Duansher pounced on Yunjian, Shirmei had already disappeared without a trace. Because there were no policemen to stop Shirmei, she ran very fast. Duansher was kicked to the ground, and Duanli merely blinked her small eyes twice. To Duanli, fatherly love did not exist at all. Moreover, Duanli had always been beaten to a pulp by Duansher, so she did not have any affection for Duansher. Duanya, on the other hand, curled up at the foot of the bed and looked over without moving. Her frightened look made one's heart ache. If one looked closely, the back of Duanli's and Duanya's hands and feet were covered with scars that looked like they had been cut. Damn it. Damn it. I'm going to kill you. Ah. Duansher did not want to go to jail. He wanted to snatch the recorder from Yunjian's hands. Chapter 675. Duansher had gone mad. He had gone mad. Duansher had been to the police station before, and everyone knew that there was no freedom in the police station. People like Duansher yearned for freedom. If Duansher were to stay in the police station for a week, he would not be able to endure it. Moreover, there was another main reason. How could there be alcohol in the police station? Duansher was an alcoholic, and he would not be able to survive without alcohol. It was the same principle as how some people could not live without cigarettes, and those who were addicted to drugs could not get rid of their addiction. Therefore, when Yunjian took out the recording device, Duansher went crazy. He could not beat Yunjian, so he picked up the kitchen knife and threatened Yunjian. Seeing Duansher pick up the kitchen knife, Officer Wu and the others were shocked. If a person was powerful, he could fight against 2 or 3 people at once. However, if the opponent had a deadly weapon, he would be afraid no matter how powerful he was. After all, this person had not been formally trained. Officer Wu and the others had not undergone formal special forces training. Therefore, when they saw Duansher pick up the knife, they shuddered. However, Officer Wu and the other policemen took out the stun batons on their waists. The stun batons were for the police. However, Officer Wu and the others had not undergone formal training. Therefore, even with the stun batons in their hands, the sharp knife in Duansher's hand still sent chills down their spines. Duansher held the kitchen knife and approached Yunjian carefully. At the same time, he threatened Yunjian, "Give me the recording device. Give it to me. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." "Dad." Duanli's heart clenched. Although she was not related to Duansher, Duanli did not want Duansher to be in a desperate situation. Xiao Yunju had already pulled Duanli behind them. "Don't be afraid, I'll protect you." Xiao Yunju looked at Duanli and said sternly. "Mr. Duan, this is considered an assault on a police officer. Put down your weapon." Officer Wu stood in front and advised Duansher. "Unless she gives me the recording device, I'll kill all of you." Haha. Duansher thought that everyone present was suppressed by him, and he became more arrogant. However, in reality, Duansher's hand was trembling as he gripped the saber. "You want this?" Yunjian held the recording device in her hand. She shook it in front of Duansher and then held it in her hand. "Yes. Give it to me. Give it to me." Duansher shouted even louder when he saw the recording device. He didn't want to go to jail. He couldn't go to jail. Therefore, he had to get the recording device. "Want it? Come over and I'll give it to you." Yunjian held the recording device. She crossed her arms and looked at Duansher fearlessly. "I'm not going over. Throw it to me." Duansher really thought that Yunjian was afraid of the kitchen knife in his hand. After all, he could kill people with a kitchen knife without blinking an eye. The reason why Duansher didn't want to go to Yunjian's side was because he still remembered Yunjian's strange skills. He really couldn't stop her. Duansher firmly believed that as long as he didn't go over, Yunjian would be afraid of him. Then, when the recording device was thrown to him, he would crush it immediately. "If you're not coming over, I'll go over." Yunjian smiled sarcastically. Then, under the watchful eyes of Officer Wu and the other policemen, she walked toward Duansher fearlessly. "Be careful." Although Officer Wu and the rest knew that Yunjian was an advanced special forces soldier, they still doubted her ability when they saw Yunjian's age. It was human nature. Seeing Yunjian walk toward Duansher step by step, Officer Wu and the rest felt their hearts squeeze together. Chapter 676. Seeing Yunjian walking towards Duansher step by step, Officer Wu and the rest were a little scared. No matter what, Yunjian was still a young girl. Even though she was an advanced special forces soldier, Yunjian was not holding anything in her hands at that moment. On the other hand, Duansher was holding a kitchen knife. The person who was not holding a weapon and the person who was holding a weapon. The person who had the weapon definitely had the upper hand. If you come any closer, I'll kill you. Duansher was so scared that his whole body was trembling. He retreated step by step until he could not retreat any further. Then, he stopped and pointed the knife at Yunjian. Didn't you want this? Yunjian weighed the recording device in her hand. She suddenly stopped smiling and turned to look at Duansher with her cold eyes. Duansher's eyes turned and he stared at the recording device in Yunjian's hand. In the next second, Duansher's eyes flashed viciously. He held the knife and rushed towards Yunjian as fast as he could. Duansher held the knife in one hand and slashed it towards Yunjian from top to bottom. His other hand was quite agile as he knew how to snatch the recording device in Yunjian's hand. Give it to me, Duansher said ferociously. As he spoke, his ferocious expression made most of the people present gasp. Crazy. This Duansher was really crazy. Just as Officer Wu and the rest were about to close their eyes and not dare to watch what was going to happen next, Yunjian suddenly reached out her hand. At that moment, Duansher was holding the kitchen knife and slashing it towards Yunjian. Sister. Little sister. Xiao Yunju and Duanli screamed almost at the same time. Both of them were scared out of their wits and screamed at the top of their lungs. The kitchen knife in Duansher's hand was aimed at Yunjian's head, but Yunjian actually reached out her hand to catch it. That was a kitchen knife. The tip of the knife was extremely sharp. Even if one's finger accidentally slipped on the tip of such a kitchen knife when cutting vegetables, one would be injured. If he accidentally used too much force when cutting vegetables, it could cause the wound to bleed profusely. If this kitchen knife were to cut into a person's body, the consequences would be unimaginable. Even though Yunjian had killed an assassin of the Inferno Ring in Wuning Elementary School, Officer Wu had not seen it. After all, Yunjian had killed an assassin from the Inferno Ring. At most, Officer Wu and the others questioned everyone who was present at the scene and made a statement. As for how Yunjian killed the Inferno Ring assassin, they had only heard about it from the parents and teachers of Wuning Elementary School. Be careful. Officer Wu couldn't help but shout again. Although the people present were afraid to see the bloody scene, Officer Wu and the others were men after all. They had guts and wouldn't close their eyes. Duansher's knife was already above Yunjian's head, and Yunjian had already reached out her hand. Most of the people present thought that Yunjian would definitely be injured by Duansher. Even Duansher revealed a sinister smile, thinking that he would be able to snatch the recording device away from her. In the next second, Yunjian reached out. Her fair and smooth hand accurately grabbed the tip of the kitchen knife in Duansher's hand with her thumb and index finger at lightning speed. The knife in Duansher's hand was only 2 centimeters away from Yunjian's flesh. If he continued to cut, he would be able to cut off Yunjian's thumb. However, no matter how hard Duansher tried, Yunjian's thumb and index finger pinched the tip of the knife tightly, causing Duansher's hand to be unable to move. You! Duansher suddenly saw this scene and screamed in shock. Officer Wu and the others, who were standing far away, saw this scene and were all shocked as if they had seen a ghost. Duansher was holding the handle of the knife. The tip of the knife was the sharpest part to begin with. Yunjian was actually able to accurately grab the tip of the knife with the fastest speed and control her strength to prevent Duansher, who already had an absolute advantage holding the handle, from continuing to cut down with the knife. This Yunjian, how strong must her fingers be to be able to catch Duansher's knife without batting an eyelid? Chapter 677. Although Officer Wu and the others had not participated in the Special Forces training, they had been doing morning runs and exercises every day to strengthen their bodies. But suddenly, they saw Yunjian reach out to catch the kitchen knife that Duansher was swinging at her. What's more, Yunjian used her fingers to pinch the tip of the knife, stopping Duansher's attack just 2 centimeters away from her skin. It was important to note that a kitchen knife was quite smooth. To pinch the tip of the knife with just the strength of one's hand and prevent the knife from cutting downwards, Yunjian's finger strength and hand strength were not something that a normal person could compare with. Officer Wu and the others were stunned. Duanshe had just recovered from his shock and was about to pull the knife back to cut Yunjian again. Yunjian moved her leg sideways. She lifted her leg and without looking, she stepped on Duanshe's knee. Ah! Duanshe screamed. His knee was kicked by Yunjian, and it went soft instantly. The next second, Duanshe knelt down with a thud from the pain. He had unintentionally knelt in the direction of Yunjian. Duanshe's legs went soft, and his hand loosened. Yunjian reached out and easily snatched the kitchen knife from Duanshe's hand. She turned her hand and held the knife to Duanshe's neck as he knelt in front of her. Duanshe was so scared that he was sweating all over. In the next second, he heard Yunjian's calm and emotionless voice. "You don't deserve to be Chestnut's father. Killing you will dirty my hands." With Yunjian's cold kitchen knife on his neck, Duanshe could not care about anything else. He was about to be killed by Yunjian. I beg you. Don't kill me. I was wrong. Don't kill me." Duanshe's somewhat handsome face was extremely pale. He was so scared that his whole body was shaking. Even if someone held him down, he could not stop shaking. In the face of life and death, most people would be afraid. Don't. Officer Wu thought that Yunjian was really going to kill Duanshe. He quickly ran forward to stop her. Duanshe was scum, but if Yunjian really killed him, then Yunjian would not be able to escape the punishment of the law. Immediately, a police officer ran up and handcuffed Duanshe's hands, bringing him back to the police station. After Yunjian put away the kitchen knife, Officer Wu walked over and asked Yunjian, "Can you bring the child back to the police station with us to make a statement?" Yunjian nodded as she held Duanli's trembling hand. Regardless of whether Duanshe's abuse of the child constituted domestic violence or whether he had to go to jail, at least he had assaulted a police officer and tried to snatch Yunjian's recording device. And it was in front of the police. He would definitely be detained. After such an incident, Duanli and Duanya would definitely have to go to the police station to make a statement. Today's incident was actually caused by her, so Yunjian was determined not to leave Duanli and Duanya behind. After making a statement at the police station, Duanshe was temporarily detained. As for Duanshe's sentence, it would take some time. However, according to Officer Wu's explanation, Duanshe would definitely go to jail. Even if he did go to jail, it would not be for long. The exact time would have to wait for the verdict. After making a statement, Officer Wu personally sent Yunjian and the other three out of the police station. Some of the female police officers and police officers who were working at the police station saw them and took a few more glances at Yunjian. When they saw Yunjian, everyone present was a little shocked. The person who could be personally escorted out by Officer Wu was actually a young girl. At this moment, Officer Wu and Yunjian were already standing at the entrance. "Regarding these two children, I can send them to the Children's Welfare Institute." Officer Wu looked at Duanli and Duanya and said to Yunjian. "No need, I'll take care of them," Yunjian said with a smile. To Yunjian, having two more mouths to feed did not affect her at all. The reason why Yunjian adopted Duanli and Duanya was because Xiao Yunju begged her. Chapter 678. Seeing that Duanli had agreed to follow Yunjian, Officer Wu did not stop her. Usually, adopting a child required a lot of procedures, but Duanli was not an orphan. At least her father was still alive. Yunjian was an advanced special forces soldier and one of Gu Yunjian's men, so she was naturally trustworthy. Therefore, Officer Wu registered and let Yunjian take the children away first. The following procedures would not be too complicated because Yunjian's identity was there. No matter how complicated the procedures were, Officer Wu would help Yunjian with it. Of course, if he could not do it, there was still Gu Junjian. "Okay, then I'll leave these two children to you. If you need anything, you can contact me anytime." Officer Wu nodded at Yunjian and then said sincerely. He was also very sincere. Not to mention anything else, just Yun Jian's ability alone was enough to convince him. Okay. Yun Jian nodded at Officer Wu. After saying goodbye, she turned and walked across the road with Duanli, Duanya, and Xiao Yunju. Duanli held Duanya's hand. Duanya did not say a word, but she was very obedient. It was already dinner time at Duanli's house. After so many things happened, they waited until now to give their statements at the police station. It was already 7 in the evening. Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju had some food, but Duanli did not eat anything. Duanya only ate a little bit of porridge that could not even be considered porridge. Duanli, Duanya, and Xiao Yunju were about the same age. Now that they were all growing up, children at this age needed to eat and replenish their nutrition. However, the food that Duanli and Duanya usually ate was probably not enough, let alone nutritious food. Yun Jian held Duanli and Xiao Yunju while Duanli held her sister, Duanya. The four of them walked across the road. Yun Jian suddenly turned and asked Duanli, "Chestnut, are you hungry? I'll take you to eat." Okay. Sister, I'm hungry again. Let's go eat. Although Xiao Yunju had eaten, he was still a growing child. Naturally, he would get hungry easily. Duanli lowered her head slightly, but she still raised her head to look at Yun Jian. Her small eyes seemed to be glowing as she said, "Miss, thank you." Yun Jian smiled and rubbed Duanli's head. Then, she brought Duanli, Duanya, and Xiao Yunju to a nearby restaurant. On the other hand, Adam and Lan Su went on their way after bidding farewell to Yun Jian. Of course, the reason they traveled together was because Lan Su's suite was in the same direction as Dong Ruan's villa. Lan Su and Adam continued to move forward. The two of them were competing to see who could run faster. The passers-by could only feel 2 gusts of wind blowing past them. It had to be said that both Lan Su and Adam were competitive people. It was not until Lan Su reached the door of her suite that she turned to leave. She left Adam with a snort as she left. Humph. Haha. Adam touched the bridge of his nose. This was the first time he had competed with a woman in a race. Moreover, their speed was on par. After laughing for a while, Adam's handsome face disappeared. He turned around and walked back to Dong Ruan's villa. Adam was staying at Dong Ruan's house as Siyi's friend. Moreover, there were many rooms in the villa. Adam had just returned to Dong Ruan's house when he met Emosen halfway. "Who's that woman?" Mawson crossed his arms and looked at Adam from the side as he asked. "You saw her?" Adam's tall figure walked over. Chapter 679. Mawson nodded. Then, he asked again, "Who's that woman?" "She works for young madam." Adam chuckled. Then, he looked at Imo-sen and walked over to put his arm around Imo-sen's shoulder. He asked in an experienced manner, "Aren't you very free? Why are you asking this? Young master is back." Imo-sen did not answer Adam directly. Instead, he changed the topic. "Oh." Adam nodded. He had guessed it too. Imo-sen followed CE back to an Hun organization. Now that Imo-sen was back, CE would naturally be back too. Let's go home." Adam could already guess that their young master must have gone to look for Yun Jian again. Hence, Adam put his arm around Imo-sen's shoulder and walked back home like brothers. Yun Jian brought Duanli and her children to a restaurant nearby. This restaurant was called Jiangxi Stir Fry. It was a famous delicacy nearby. Jiangxi's menu was suitable for the public's appetite. Of course, some people from other provinces did not eat spicy food. Jiangxi's dishes had a taste that one would never get tired of eating. Of course, everyone had their own preferences. However, Yun Jian liked it very much. Yun Jian could eat a little spicy food, but Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Yun Jian did not eat spicy food. Hence, when they were ordering, Yun Jian asked the boss to prepare non-spicy dishes. They ordered 3 meat and 3 vegetable dishes. When the dishes were served, Duanli and Duanya were dumbfounded. Duanli and Duanya had never eaten such delicious food since they were born. Although the school's food was already considered a delicacy to them, the school's cafeteria food was not as good as the freshly fried dishes outside. Duanli and Duanya were practically wolfing down the food. Eat slowly. Yunjian smiled with her eyes squinted. There are a total of 16 chicken drumsticks. There are 4 of us. 4 for each of us. Xiao Yunju calculated quickly and put the drumsticks into everyone's bowls. Xiao Yunju was very smart. He was afraid that Duanli and Duanya would not eat, so he put the meat into everyone's bowls separately. In fact, Yunjian had also noticed that Duanli and Duanya had not touched the meat since the dishes were served. It was likely that the 2 children had never eaten meat before. Even if there was meat at home, Duanshi would never let Duanli and Duanya touch it. These 2 children had probably developed a habit and didn't dare to eat meat anymore. I'm not eating. You guys share it. Yunjian narrowed her eyes, her long eyelashes fluttering. Duanli blinked her small eyes. She looked at Yunjian and said to Yunjian, if you don't want to eat, we won't eat either. Duanli put down her chopsticks as she spoke. As soon as Duanli put down her chopsticks, Duanya, who was sitting beside her, also put down her chopsticks. Duanya had no idea what was going on. She only knew that her sister had put down her chopsticks, and she had to follow suit. If elder sister doesn't want to eat, Xiao Zhu won't eat either. Xiao Yunju also learned to put down his chopsticks. Yunjian smiled when she saw their reactions. She picked up a chicken drumstick with her chopsticks, gave it a gentle bite, and swallowed it. Xiao Yunju and Duanli looked at her and happily picked up their bowls and chopsticks to eat the chicken drumsticks in their bowls. Duanya remained silent, but she also picked up her chopsticks with her clumsy hands like Duanli. Yunjian looked at the bright smiles on the 3 children's faces. She subconsciously curled up the corners of her lips. She had probably never felt so warm in her previous life or this life. At that moment, Yunjian was using her chopsticks to pick up a chicken drumstick. She had just lowered her head and was about to swallow the chicken drumstick when a gentle and mellow male voice sounded beside her. Is the drumstick good? Chapter 680. Yunjian turned to look and saw Ce standing in front of her. His jet black hair accentuated his fair and handsome face, and his casual outfit made him stand out. Ce was the kind of person who got more and more attractive the more you looked at him. Yunjian couldn't help but be stunned when she turned to look at him. Do I look good? Ce walked over and rubbed Yunjian's head affectionately. Then, he reached out and lifted Xiao Yunju up from Yunjian's seat. Ce lifted Xiao Yunju and gently placed him beside Duanli. Duanya sat beside Duanli. The tables here were facing each other, but the stools were arranged in a row. If 3 people squeezed together, they could still sit together. Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Duanya were small to begin with. Thus, when Ce brought Xiao Yunju to Yunjian, the 3 of them could sit in a row without cramped space. Ce smoothly sat beside Yunjian. Then, he leaned his head back and placed his hands on his forehead. Just like that, he turned to look at Yunjian. Yunjian paused. Then, she gently placed the chicken drumstick back into the bowl. How did you know we were here? Yunjian asked. She wasn't surprised that Ce was back. She was surprised that he knew she would be here for dinner. Moreover, even if Adam had met Ce, he wouldn't have known that she was here. This was because after Adam and Lan Su parted ways with her, something unpleasant had happened to her at Duanli's house. How could I not know where you are? Ce kept her in suspense. His handsome lips curved upwards. His sharp features were extremely handsome. Yunjian didn't want to get to the bottom of it. What's more, Yunjian's focus wasn't on this at all. Oh. Yunjian pursed her lips slightly, then picked up her chopsticks again and picked up the drumstick. If you don't want it, then give it to me. Ce stretched out his slender and fair fingers. His fingers were well-defined, slender and beautiful. At this moment, this good-looking hand directly grasped Yunjian's jade-like hand. He pressed against Yunjian's hand and moved the drumstick in Yunjian's hand to his face. Yunjian turned to look at Ce and pursed her lips. At this moment, the chicken drumstick in Yunjian's hand had already been controlled by Ce and was being fed to him. His hand was close to hers, and her hand was holding the chopsticks. This scene was so embarrassing that it was hard to imagine. Yunju watched the scene in bewilderment, still unable to wrap his head around it. Duanli and Duanya were watching as well, Duanli's mouth agape. The three children had yet to recover from their shock. Ce had already taken a bite of the drumstick that Yunjian had just eaten. Once he did so, he let go of Yunjian's hand. Ce finished the entire drumstick in no time. He did not even spare the bones. This was the drumstick that his Xiao Jian had eaten, so it was naturally delicious. Yunjian pointed at the other 3 drumsticks in her bowl and told Ce, "If you're hungry, these are all for you." "I'm full." Ce tilted his head to look at her, the indulgence in his gaze clear. "Chestnut, this is my Ce Gidge. Isn't he good-looking?" Xiao Yunju quickly introduced Ce to Duanli when he snapped out of it. "Amen." The latter studied Ce and nodded heavily. By then, Yunjian had already picked up the other drumstick and took a bite. A large hand reached over again. Yunjian turned to look and asked Ce suspiciously, "Aren't you full?" Chapter 681. It wasn't until Ce ate Yunjian's drumstick that Xiao Yunju shouted at Ce, "Big brother Ce, you can't steal big sister's drumstick. That's big sister's drumstick. You're so naughty." Xiao Yunju immediately defended Yunjian. As soon as Xiao Yunju finished speaking, he looked at Ce and calmed down. "Big brother Ce, are you still hungry?" Xiao Yunju asked. Ce looked up and smiled at Xiao Yunju. "Big brother Ce, if you're still hungry, you can have Xiao Zhu's portion." "Big sister is hungry too," Xiao Yunju said as he pushed his drumstick in front of Ce. Ce smiled and pushed his drumstick back to Xiao Yunju. He said, "I'm not hungry." "Then why did you steal big sister's drumstick?" "The teacher said it's wrong to steal other people's food." Xiao Yunju said self-righteously. Ce smiled awkwardly. "Hurry up and eat. I'll take you home when you're done," Yunjian urged. Then she said, "When we get home later, I'll have to make your beds. It's already 7 o'clock. It's not good for children to sleep too late." Yunjian's words made sense. Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Duanya were very obedient. Later, Xiao Yunju and Duanli even competed to see who could finish their food first. The 2 children were having a lot of fun. Duanli had never played so happily in her life. Therefore, she kept a smile on her face, as if she wanted to vent all the happiness in her life. "Big sister, big brother Ce, I'm done." Xiao Yunju was the first to look up. "Me too." A bright and satisfied smile bloomed on Duanli's delicate face. Ce went to the counter to settle the bill and brought the 3 children out of Jiangxi restaurant with Yunjian. When they got home, Qin Yiru and her brother Yun Yi, who had just rushed back from Qin Yu's house, Yunjian told them about Duanli and Duanya. Now that Qin Yiru and Yun Yi knew that Longmen City's new cruise was owned by Yunjian, they did not object to Yun's adoption of Duanli and Duanya. On Duanli and Duanli and Duanya's and Duanli's and Duanya's and Duanya. In the end, Duanli, Duanya, and Yunju addressed Qin Yiru as Mama Qin. Qin Yiru was a kind person. Of course, kindness and adoption depended on the occasion. If it was when their family was poor, perhaps Qin Yiru would not adopt another child after adopting Xiao Yunju. After all, if their family was so poor that they did not have enough food, they would not be able to survive if they had a few more mouths to feed. Qin Yiru was not a good person either. Now that their family's condition was improving because of Yunjian, Qin Yiru was more than happy to adopt Duanli and Duanya. Yunyi welcomed the children as well, but Yunyi only went downstairs to show her face before going back upstairs. "Brother," Yun Jian called out to Yunyi. Yunyi had just returned from Qin Yu's hometown today. "Xiao Jian, what's up?" Yunyi asked in return. "Brother, why are you going upstairs so early? Aren't you going to play a little longer downstairs?" Yun Jian asked. Yunyi blushed suddenly before he answered Yun Jian quickly, "I'm catching up on my homework. School starts tomorrow." "Xiao Jian, I'll go upstairs first." Yunyi went upstairs as he spoke. Staying at Qin Yu's house, Yunyi did not feel like going home anymore. It was only on the last day that Yunyi returned to Longmen City. Chapter 682. Yunyi had always been an obedient student. Be it at home or in school, Yunyi had always completed her homework on time. When Yun Jian first heard that Yunyi had not completed her homework, she was stunned. Yun Jian was excellent in her studies, but she was often the one who did not complete her homework. Yun Jian basically never did the homework assigned by school. Yun Jian would start school tomorrow, but to Yun Jian, homework did not exist. It was different for Yunyi. If Yun Jian believed that Yunyi did not do her homework, it would be more unacceptable than the sky falling down. After all, Yunyi's hard work was witnessed by everyone. Back then, Yunyi had gotten into DE Senior High School from Xinjiang Jin Junior High based on her own abilities. It was not without her hard work. A trip to Qin Yu's house and Yunyi did not even do her homework. This was unheard of. Yun Jian's lips twitched, but she did not say anything. "Xiao Jian, have you guys eaten? Look at how skinny these kids are. Why don't I make you guys something to eat?" Qin Yiru said as she headed to the kitchen. "Mama Qin, we've eaten. We're full. Jie brought us there." Xiao Yunju told Qin Yiru as she patted her tiny tummy that was devoid of any excess fat. Qin Yiru smiled at that. A life like this was something that Qin Yiru could only come by luck, so Qin Yiru was content. After they were done tidying up the girls' rooms, the group went to bed. Duanli and Duanya were still young, and Duanya would be scared to sleep alone, so Duanli and Duanya slept in the same room. After Duanli, Duanya, and Xiao Yunju fell asleep, Yun Jian went back to her room to sleep as well. Ce pulled Yun Jian to his room right in front of Qin Yiru. Knowing that Ce would not do anything, Yun Jian did not argue. Once they were in Ce's room, Ce hugged her out of habit. "Are you okay this afternoon?" Ce's muffled voice came from the top of her head. Yun Jian had planned to sleep, but when she heard Ce's question, she snuggled into Ce's arms and answered, "I'm fine. I just don't know who those people are." Ce was asking about what happened at Xiao Yunju's school in the afternoon. Someone was trying to assassinate Yun Jian. Ce's heart skipped a beat when he heard the news. Although Ce knew that Yun Jian would be fine, it was still a big deal to him. "It's the Inferno Ring. It should be Tai Jingang's gang. I'll handle it," Ce told Yun Jian as he sniffed the lingering fragrance in her hair. Yun Jian fell asleep quickly in Ce's warm embrace. The next day, Yun Jian woke up in Ce's arms. After her morning run with Ce, Yun Jian went to Longmen Junior High School with a hot egg and 2 steamed buns that Qin Yiru had given her. Just as she reached the school gate, Yun Jian bumped into Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Sini, whom she had not seen for a long time. Jian. I'm here." Chen Sini waved desperately at Yun Jian the moment she saw Yun Jian. Yun Jian smiled faintly when she saw Chen Sini and turned to go over. Jian, you're early." Chen Sini hooked her arm around Yun Jian's hand affectionately when she came over, leaving Zhang Xiaofeng alone. Hey, that's my master." Zhang Xiaofeng chased after her when he snapped out of it. Chapter 683. Yun Jian followed Chen Sini and Zhang Xiaofeng from the school gate to the school building. The winter break had been going on for more than 20 days. When they first arrived at school, they bumped into familiar faces that they could not remember. They would often bump into students from other classes in school, but they did not know each other's names. This was a common occurrence in a student's life. Students from different classes would often bump into each other when they went to the washroom. However, after 3 years of middle school, they might not even know each other's names. Yun Jian and the rest had just arrived at the school building when a handsome boy walked towards them. "Hi, you guys are here so early?" Ling Yichen waved as he walked towards Yun Jian and the rest. When they first met, Yun Jian did not have a good impression of Ling Yichen. However, after spending some time together, Yun Jian did not hate Lin Yichen that much. Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Sini's opinion of Lin Yichen had also improved significantly. Go. Didn't you come earlier than us?" Chen Sini waved at Ling Yichen as if she wanted to chase Lin Yichen away. Hee. Ling Yichen rubbed his head, a little embarrassed. Chen Sini continued to hold Yun Jian's hand and ran ahead. Ling Yichen used to be a playboy in school. He had the potential to hook up with girls and was more diligent in changing girls than changing clothes. However, ever since he started hanging out with Yun Jian and the rest, Ling Yichen had never had a girlfriend again. "Hey, you three, wait for me." Ling Yichen reached out and hooked his chin domineeringly. Then, he suddenly realized that Zhang Xiaofeng had already chased after Yun Jian and Chen Sini. He quickly shouted and chased after them. "I'm not waiting, so I'm not waiting." Humph. Chen Sini turned around and made a funny face at Ling Yichen. She giggled and pulled Yun Jian even faster. With a smirk, Yun Jian followed Chen Sini and her friends back to the classroom, fooling around. Ling Yichen was not in the same class as Yun Jian and the rest, so they parted ways not long after they reached the teaching block. After returning to the classroom, the homeroom teacher began to collect tuition fees. In 1999, the internet wasn't as convenient as it was now. Students in this era would bring money with them to class. Once the tuition fees were collected and the textbooks were distributed, it meant that the winter break was over and the new semester had officially begun. Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Sini were sitting in their seats with their heads down. They were a little depressed. A new semester had just begun. Some students in the class were also talking about how the winter vacation had ended before it even started. They hadn't had enough fun. Fortunately, they only received their textbooks today, and the school ended at 11:00 in the afternoon. The school would only officially start the next day, so the teachers did not plan to keep the students until the evening. After class in the afternoon, Zhang Xiaofeng was the most excited. "Master, I have an uncle who opened a taekwondo dojo in Longmen City. Let's practice there today," Zhang Xiaofeng said excitedly. His father had an old friend named Swalinwei. Zhang Xiaofeng called him uncle, and Zhang Xiaofeng was close to this uncle since he was young. Since Yun Jian was willing to teach Zhang Xiaofeng real skills, Zhang Xiaofeng, Chen Sini, and Chen Sini had been waiting for Yun Jian to teach Zhang Xiaofeng something after school. Now that Zhang Xiaofeng had an uncle who opened a taekwondo dojo, Zhang Xiaofeng suggested that they go there to practice. "Okay." Yun Jian nodded. Chapter 684. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes at Zhang Xiaofeng's words. "Zhang Xiaofeng, well done. You want Jian to compete with that uncle of yours, don't you? How dare you beat around the bush?" Chen Sini scolded Zhang Xiaofeng fervently now that she had something to use against him. Heh. Zhang Xiaofeng rubbed his nose and chuckled awkwardly when Chen Sini saw through his thoughts. As they spoke, the group had exited the school and was walking out of the school gate. Just as Yun Jian stepped out of the street and headed for the opposite street, a female voice rang behind her. However, it was not directed at Yun Jian. "Hi, Yichen, where are you guys going? Do you mind bringing me along?" The rather bold female voice came from behind. Yun Jian turned around and saw the owner of the voice. The owner of the voice was a girl around 18 years old. The girl had short hair and looked like a boy. Moreover, she was dressed in men's clothing, which made her look more like a tomboy. However, it could be seen from the contours of her face that she was a girl. She did not look like a boy in terms of appearance. "Sis Lin, why are you back?" Ling Yichen's mood brightened instantly when he saw the girl dressed like a boy. He turned to ask her. "I'm visiting my alma mater. I remember that you're in your 3rd year of junior high now, right?" The girl who was addressed as Sis Lin was called Meng Lin, and she was replying to Ling Yichen with simple words. "Yeah." Ling Yichen nodded and introduced Meng Lin to Yun Jian and the rest. "This is Sis Lin. She's our senior, I guess. She's 2 years older than us and has graduated now. She's in her 2nd year of senior high in another province." Ling Yichen could not help chuckling as he spoke and continued, "Sis Lin's results are great. She helped me a lot when I was in my 1st year of junior high." While Ling Yichen was introducing her to the others, Meng Lin was not shy. She boldly extended her hand towards Yun Jian and the rest. "Hi, everyone. If you don't mind, you can call me senior sister. I also graduated from Longmen No. 1 Middle School." With that, Meng Lin chuckled. Yun Jian slightly expressed her goodwill to Meng Lin. "Oh right, I heard your voices just now. You said you were going to the Taekwondo dojo, right? You don't mind bringing me along, right?" Meng Lin clenched her fists. After displaying her might like a boy, she laughed out loud. "Of course." He then turned to Yun Jian and said, "Sister Lin has been learning judo since she was young. She's a judo expert now. Yun Jian, you two can spar." Ling Yichen and the rest were well aware of Yun Jian's strength. However, it was common for 2 people with some strength to spar with each other. "Sure." Yun Jian smiled faintly. Her beauty was intriguing. She did not dislike Meng Lin. Meng Lin's personality was very down-to-earth, just like a boy's. This also meant that she did not scheme against each other like girls. This was a good feeling for Yun Jian. Although they had met a new Meng Lin, it did not affect them much. The group walked towards the Taekwondo dojo that Zhang Xiaofeng's family had just opened. After passing through a few streets, they passed through the downtown area. After passing through the downtown area, they saw Zhang Xiaofeng's Taekwondo dojo by the side of the road. Yun Jian and the rest walked into the Taekwondo dojo. Chapter 685. In this group of people who were dueling, the oldest was only around 25 years old, while the youngest was only 14 or 15 years old. Of course, there was also a group of kids from 7 to 13 or 14 years old sitting next to the dojo. It could be seen that the people who were fighting one-on-one were only limited to the oldest group of people in the Taekwondo channel. The fights were carried out in batches. The people fighting were divided into 2 groups based on their age. The older ones were fighting against the older ones while the younger ones were fighting against the younger ones. At this moment, the people who were fighting were the group of people between the ages of 14 and 25. When Yun Jian entered the dojo, she saw a middle-aged man in his 40s with white hair standing next to the 2 people fighting. It was undeniable that this middle-aged man with white hair was Zhang Xiaofeng's uncle, Zhuo Linwei. "Uncle." Zhang Xiaofeng walked over with Yun Jian and the others when he saw Zhuo Linwei. "Xiaofeng, you're here?" Zhuo Linwei asked when he saw Zhang Xiaofeng and the others. Zhuo Linwei's dojo had only been open for a short time. It could be considered a new dojo. In fact, Zhuo Linwei was an international retired mercenary. It was no longer a secret that he was one of the best in the world. Because of his experience as a mercenary and Zhuo Linwei's own skills, he had a good grasp of Taekwondo. Therefore, when the dojo opened for business, people immediately signed up to learn it. In just a few days, the dojo was almost full. "These are my friends." Zhang Xiaofeng pointed at Yun Jian and the others. His finger stopped at Yun Jian and he introduced her to Zhuo Linwei. "Uncle, this is my master, Yun Jian. I've told you about her before. She's amazing." Zhang Xiaofeng's introduction made Zhuo Linwei take a closer look at Yun Jian. Yun Jian was also looking at Zhuo Linwei when she was being sized up. Zhuo Linwei had a kind of wild aura. At the same time, his rough appearance was hard to forget. Zhuo Linwei also had a special difference. He had a long black beard on his mouth, which was deliberately left there. That long beard added to Zhuo Linwei's mysteriousness, as well as his powerful strength. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. The first time she saw Zhuo Linwei, her intuition told her that he was not simple. Hello. Yun Jian nodded at Zhuo Linwei. Good, good, good. Little friend, nice to meet you. Zhuo Linwei hurriedly replied. Uncle, my master is very powerful. Why don't you two spar? Zhang Xiaofeng praised Yun Jian again. He couldn't wait to see Yun Jian compete with his uncle Zhuo Linwei. A duel between two experts, this scene was absolutely spectacular. After all, Yun Jian was strong, but his uncle was not weak either. His uncle Zhuo Linwei was also a retired member of the International Mercenary Group. After Zhang Xiaofeng finished speaking, he turned to Yun Jian and said, Master, my uncle is a member of the Gale Mercenary Group. He just retired from the Gale Mercenary Group not long ago. His strength is definitely not comparable to ordinary people. If you two spar, you'll definitely benefit a lot. Zhang Xiaofeng was just anxious to see his uncle spar with Yun Jian. He knew that Yun Jian was very strong, and he also knew that Yun Jian did not want to fight with a weakling. Therefore, he revealed Zhuo Linwei's identity and tried to get Yun Jian to spar with Zhuo Linwei. Chapter 686. Just as Yun Jian heard about the Gale mercenaries, Meng Lin exclaimed in surprise, Gale mercenaries? I know them. They're a mercenary group formed by various international alliances and they're under the management of the International Gale Corporation. I heard that the Gale mercenaries under the Gale Corporation recruits elites from all over the world all year round, but only a handful of people can join the Gale mercenaries. Your uncle is actually from the mercenary group. That's amazing. Meng Lin had heard of the Gale mercenaries before and was dumbfounded by what she heard. To Meng Lin, she was just an ordinary student. Even though she had learned judo and was considered a judo expert, she was still intimidated by an international mercenary group like the Gale mercenaries. The biggest difference between the Gale mercenaries and the Wuxia mercenaries was not the word mercenary. It was that the Gale mercenaries were under the management of the International Gale Corporation. The Wuxia mercenaries was an underground organization, similar to an assassin organization like the Enhun group. The most obvious difference was that the members of the Wuxia mercenaries were basically made up of assassins. Of course, the Wuxia mercenaries would recruit international elites as well, but in comparison, the higher-ups of the Wuxia mercenaries were all assassins who had survived through brutal training. Be it internationally or in their respective territories, unless they were killed, these people were important figures who could hold their own. Zhuo Linwei, who was praised by Meng Lin, was standing beside her. He was more or less embarrassed to hear the compliment. After all, he had retired from the military and wanted to simply open a taekwondo gym in Longmen City and live out the rest of his life peacefully. Although Zhuo Linwei was a mercenary of the Gale mercenary group, he was nothing in the Gale mercenary group. There were many elites in the Gale mercenaries. Zhuo Linwei's ability to join the Gale mercenaries was proof of his ability. It was undeniable that he was very capable. However, in a place like the Gale mercenaries where talents were outstanding, someone as capable as Zhuo Linwei would be buried. This was the truth. Therefore, Zhuo Linwei was embarrassed to hear Meng Lin praise him. Meng Lin's praise made many students in the Taekwondo dojo pricked up their ears. Especially the students who learned Taekwondo here. Many people present wanted to know the strength of their coaches. Meng Lin didn't have any other intentions. She was just surprised and said what she knew. However, among Zhuo Linwei's students, there was a ruffian in his 20s. He pretended to be knowledgeable, so he asked Zhuo Linwei, Coach Zhuo, I know a little about the international mercenary groups. The Gale mercenary group is also divided into several teams. What's the name of your team? The Gale mercenaries were indeed divided into several teams, just like the advanced special forces. Gu Junjian was the chief instructor while Yunjian's team Monarch was just one of the teams in the advanced special forces. The Gale mercenary group was also divided into teams in the same way. Every assassin organization or mercenary group had their own way of governing. At least, the Gale mercenaries were divided into teams of a few people. Zhuo Linwei did not hide it when he was pressed to this extent. He said, "Fury." Chapter 687. Rampage was just a small team of the Gale mercenaries. Just like Gu Yunjian's team Monarch, it was just a small team. However, even if Team Monarch was just a small team, it was now the spokesperson of the advanced special forces. Yunjian's 2 missions, including the annihilation of the Inferno Ring, had completely spread Team Monarch's reputation. As soon as Zhuo Linwei spoke, the ruffian boy exclaimed in surprise. This boy clearly knew about the international mercenary groups and mercenary groups. Oh my god. Rampage. Coach Zhuo, you're from Rampage. The ruffian guy exclaimed immediately, his tone as if he was afraid that Zhuo Linwei did not know about Rampage. Hey, Ning Bin, explain it to us. What's Rampage? Some of the guys around him were interested and asked quickly. After all, not everyone knew about the Gale mercenaries. Perhaps everyone knew what a mercenary group was, but if it was a mercenary group with a precise name like the Gale mercenaries, most of them would not know about it. Hey, you guys don't know about it? Since there were girls around, especially Yun Jian and Chen Sini, the ruffian guy called Ning Bin kept them in suspense and sneered. Nonsense, tell us if you want to. Some of the guys around could not stand Ning Bin, so they shouted. Ning Bin was keeping them in suspense, thinking that it was very obvious and impressive that he was pretending to be knowledgeable in front of the girls. However, the other guys were naturally displeased when they saw Ning Bin showing off in front of the girls. Being urged, Ning Bin said proudly, "Hey, there are only 120 people in Rampage, but I heard that among these 120 people, the top 20 are all on the international rankings. Hackers, assassins, secret agents. Although they're not particularly high on the rankings, they're all kings of the elites." Ning Bin's boast caused many people present to gasp. Ning Bin, on the other hand, thought that he was impressive. He turned to look at Zhuo Linwei and exclaimed, "Coach Zhuo, you're really from Rampage. That's unbelievable." "I'm just one of the weakest in Rampage," Zhuo Linwei said. At this point, Zhuo Linwei smiled awkwardly. It was obvious that he was not bluffing. "You're amazing too." Ning Bin flattered Zhuo Linwei. From the beginning until now, Ning Bin's attitude towards Zhuo Linwei had changed drastically. Everyone present shifted their gazes to Zhuo Linwei and started talking among themselves. Zhuo Linwei, on the other hand. Just as they were talking, Yun Jian's melodious voice was heard, the Gale mercenaries group. As she spoke, she turned to Zhuo Linwei and asked, "Since you're from Rampage, you should know Cotton, don't you? How's is he doing now?" Cotton was a top figure in the Gale mercenary group. He was one of the top 3 hackers in the international hacker rankings. At the same time, his strength was also widely acknowledged. Yun Jian had interacted with Cotton in her past life. Due to their dealings in firearms, they had been friends for some time. Therefore, when she heard about the Gale mercenaries group, she naturally asked. When Zhuo Linwei heard Yun Jian's words, he shouted in surprise, "You know Commander Cotton?" Chapter 688. Zhuo Linwei's gaze shifted from the others to Yun Jian. His eyes widened as he stared at Yun Jian in disbelief. In the Gale mercenaries, Cotton's position was equivalent to the leader of the Gale mercenaries. The Gale mercenaries and the Kosha mercenaries had different names. The boss of the Kosha mercenaries was equivalent to the leader of the Gale mercenaries. However, the Gale mercenaries were formed by mercenaries from all over the world. The leader of the Gale mercenaries was not as important as the boss of the Kosha mercenaries. For the Kosha mercenaries, as long as it was the boss of the Kosha mercenaries, they would do whatever the boss said. However, the Gale mercenaries were different. In the Gale mercenaries, everyone in the alliance had the right to speak. In other words, the leader of the Gale mercenaries could not do whatever he wanted. As for Cotton, he was personally invited back by the leader of the Gale mercenaries. Cotton's power in the Gale mercenaries was equivalent to the leader of the Gale mercenaries. Sometimes, Cotton's words were even more effective than the leader's. That was the difference. A character like Zhuo Linwei would never have the chance to talk to Cotton. Therefore, when he heard Yun Jian call Cotton a kid, Zhuo Linwei was so surprised. After all, Yun Jian was only a 16-year-old girl. Zhuo Linwei had never mentioned Cotton before. Since Yun Jian mentioned him, it meant that she knew this person and even knew Cotton. Seeing Zhuo Linwei so surprised, everyone present was stunned. Who was Cotton? Who was the leader of the Gale mercenaries? If Zhuo Linwei, who had retired from the Gale mercenaries, was so surprised, then this person was definitely not simple. For a moment, everyone present turned to look at Yun Jian. Who is Cotton? Ningbin suddenly felt that Yun Jian had stolen his limelight. Although he was unhappy, Ningbin would not insult in front of Yun Jian. There was no other reason except that Ningbin pretended to know a lot in front of Yun Jian. If it weren't for the two girls, Yun Jian and Chen Sini, he probably wouldn't even bother to say anything one-sided. Yun Jian and Chen Sini were both good-looking. In comparison, Yun Jian was prettier, so Ningbin had long taken a fancy to her and wanted to show off himself. Ningbin's question was actually directed at Yun Jian. However, Yun Jian didn't even look at Ningbin. She looked at Zhuo Linwei and answered his question, "Yes, I do." Not only did they know each other, but when Yun Jian first entered the hacker world, Cotton could be considered her elder. In the end, in less than 2 months, she cracked the broken program in Cotton's hands and made a mess of it. Cotton had to pay a huge price for it. He lost $1 billion. Of course, $1 billion was nothing to Cotton. Cotton wasn't angry. Later on, Yun Jian worked with Cotton on a batch of firearms business. Of course, the time they spent together was only a few days. Yun Jian knew a lot of people, and Cotton was just one of them. Yun Jian's simple sentence stunned Zhuo Linwei. Even as a member of the Gale mercenary group, he didn't have the ability to meet Cotton, but Yun Jian actually knew Cotton. Ningbin, who was standing at the side, was very unhappy with the feeling of being ignored. He patiently asked Yun Jian, "Little beauty, who is Cotton? Can you tell me?" As soon as Ningbin finished speaking, Zhuo Linwei answered for Yun Jian, "Cotton is the leader of our Gale mercenary group. His position is even higher than our leader. A small character like me doesn't even have the right to meet him." Everyone gasped when they heard Zhuo Linwei's words. Chapter 689. Zhuo Linwei looked at Yun Jian in surprise. He took 2 deep breaths and asked, "Young friend, may I ask who you are?" The word "yes" was delayed for a long time. It was enough to show Zhuo Linwei's surprise. Hearing Zhuo Linwei's words, everyone present stared at Yun Jian, as if they wanted to stare a big hole in Yun Jian's body. Yun Jian just gently pursed her lips. Her delicate and perfect little face quickly revealed a bright smile. She answered Zhuo Linwei, "My name is Yun Jian. Didn't Zhang Xiaofeng mention it before?" Yun Jian's words made Zhuo Linwei frown. Of course, Zhuo Linwei didn't intend to hear Yun Jian's true identity from her. After all, there were so many people present. Even if Yun Jian wanted to say it, she couldn't say it in front of so many people. Of course, after Yun Jian said it, many people present felt that it was meaningless. "TSK, who does she think she is?" "I think she's just bragging," a boy couldn't help but shout. "Bragging, bragging, bragging my ass. If you don't have the ability, why don't you brag for me too?" When Zhang Xiaofeng heard it, he quickly jumped out to speak for Yun Jian. At the same time, he fiercely scolded the boy. That boy was scared by Zhang Xiaofeng's aggressive words. Of course, perhaps because he knew the relationship between Zhang Xiaofeng and Zhuo Linwei, the boy who scolded Yun Jian just now didn't dare to say anything. Hee, I didn't expect you to be so pleasing to the eye. When Chen Sini saw Zhang Xiaofeng speaking for Yun Jian, she couldn't help but praise Zhang Xiaofeng. Better than you. Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Sini bickered. Then, he ran over to Yun Jian. Cough, cough. Zhuo Linwei coughed softly, forced to look at Yun Jian squarely. At this moment, Zhuo Linwei really wanted to spar with Yun Jian. Yi Chen, your friends are really interesting. Meng Lin also stepped forward and said. Then, she reached out her hand to stroke her short hair. Like a boy, she extended her hand to Yun Jian and said, Beauty, you don't mind being friends with me, right? Let's get to know each other again. My name is Meng Lin. I'm your senior from 2 years ago. Meng Lin reached out to Yun Jian boldly. Everyone liked to make friends with the strong, and Meng Lin was no exception. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes at the same time and reached out her hand. Yun Jian. Yun Jian stretched out her hand and repeated her name to Meng Lin. It could be considered that she intended to befriend Meng Lin. To be honest, Yun Jian quite liked bold and manly women like Meng Lin. From the beginning, Yun Jian had a good impression of Meng Lin. Hey, are you guys done talking? Xiaofeng said that you're very strong. If it's convenient, why don't you spar with me? Zhuo Linwei liked to spar. To him, challenging the strong was also one of life's greatest pleasures. Therefore, he extended his hand to Yun Jian to express his thoughts. That's right. Master, why don't you spar with my uncle? Besides, everyone wants to see what you're capable of, right? Zhang Xiaofeng did not forget his initial goal. He quickly spoke to Yun Jian with a hint of pleading in his tone. As soon as Zhang Xiaofeng spoke, most of the people present agreed. Indeed, most of the people present wanted to see Yun Jian's strength. After all, to most of them, they were waiting for a good show. Chapter 690. The questions from before, including Gale mercenaries and Yun Jian's acquaintance with cotton, were quickly tossed to the back of everyone's mind. At this moment, there was only one thing that everyone present was interested in. Yun Jian was going to fight Coach Zhuo Linwei one-on-one. The students in the Taekwondo dojo were especially excited at this moment. One of them was the coach of the Taekwondo dojo, a former mercenary of the International Fierce Wind Mercenary Group, who had just retired from the army. The other one was an underage girl, who knew a big shot that even Zhuo Linwei, a mercenary, was afraid of. What's more, Zhang Xiaofeng had always praised Yun Jian, so everyone present was eager to see how powerful Yun Jian was. Compared with Coach Zhuo Linwei, who was more powerful, Yun Jian or Zhuo Linwei? Yun Jian, come on. Hearing that Yun Jian was going to fight Zhuo Linwei one-on-one, Meng Lin, who had just become friends with Yun Jian, stretched out her right hand and made a gesture of encouragement to Yun Jian. Okay, Yun Jian replied calmly, but there was a glimmer of light in her eyes. Come on. Zhuo Linwei also stretched out his hand and signaled Yun Jian, and at the same time, he announced loudly. Yun Jian's eyes flashed, and she curled her lips. Then she walked towards the place where the students were fighting one-on-one. There was a simple arena on the ground. Master, come on. Master, come on. Master will win. When Yun Jian walked to the opposite side of Zhuo Linwei, and they looked at each other, Zhang Xiaofeng's desperate shout was heard. The people present were automatically divided into two groups. Of course, the group of students who were training in Zhuo Linwei's Taekwondo dojo naturally cheered for Zhuo Linwei. However, the one who shouted the loudest was undoubtedly Zhang Xiaofeng. Zhang Xiaofeng was shouting with all his strength. Brat, uncle has also treated you well. You're not cheering for me and you're cheering for her. Even if it's just for show, you're too cruel to uncle's heart. Zhuo Linwei and Yun Jian stood facing each other. At this moment, he couldn't help but tease Zhang Xiaofeng. His tone was even joking. Hey! Zhang Xiaofeng stuck his tongue out awkwardly, but he did not stop cheering for Yun Jian. Then let's begin. Zhuo Linwei changed his joking tone and turned to look at Yun Jian. When he spoke, there was a trace of seriousness. Let me make it clear in advance, little friend. I won't go easy on you, so you can't go easy on me either. Show me what you've got. Let's compete fairly. Regardless of whether you lose or I lose, this is just a friendly duel. Zhuo Linwei said. It had to be said that Zhuo Linwei was quite farsighted. After all, some people would lose their dignity if they lost a duel. After the duel, they would cry and shout that they were going to die. They would even treat the opponent who defeated them as an enemy. It wasn't like Yun Jian had never encountered this kind of situation. It had happened a few times before. Therefore, Yun Jian preferred Zhuo Linwei's way of talking about this kind of thing. I have no objections. Let's begin. Yun Jian also became serious. Zhuo Linwei was a member of the Gale mercenary group. This also meant that his strength was not ordinary. Yun Jian would not underestimate any opponent. At the same time, she would not let go of any opportunity to win. In short, she would not go easy on Zhuo Linwei for any reason. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.